So for those of you who may not know, I am Pauline Brooks. I am the president of the CARA board. And actually today, after today, you're gonna hope you never hear my voice again for a while. But that's okay, because we got a lot planned and we're gonna do a lot. We're gonna have a good time and we're gonna celebrate each other. I'm so happy that there are folks from all over California here. We're just grateful, and our even folks from across the nation, which you'll meet later, Mr. Fiesta, who is our director of ARA from our Washington, D.C. office. Stand up, Rich. So officially, I am calling this to order at this moment, okay? And sometimes you're gonna wonder who is standing up here talking, because I do kind of trip out, become English. Whatever, but you'll understand me. It'll keep you on your toes. It will keep you entertained. It'll keep you involved, and that's what we want. We want to be involved. So a big thank you to Yesenia. Yesenia, where are you? You're not. Where's staff? Yesenia, you're on the table. No, that's not. That's Cynthia. Still driving. Okay, well, what the big thanks to Yesenia, to all the CARA Communication Committee for helping put these great memories together. Some of these pictures, I don't know who these people are, because it looks what we looked like 20 years ago. But most of all, you know you're there and we know you're there. So Yesenia, the reason I was calling her, because we also do the full convention in Spanish. And if she's not here, I just need to. She's at the front desk. She's at the front desk. Okay, well, if we need translations, everybody here, okay with that? Yes. Okay, if we need it, Yesenia's here. Cynthia's here. Okay, so we'll move on. Okay. I want to start by just saying thank you. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here. For those of you who are on Zoom, and for those of you who are here in the room. So this, just so you know, we are doing hybrid. We're doing hybrid, and so therefore the people, for all of you that are here, is twice as many people on Zoom. so that we can communicate. And sometimes that may become a need for us to do a little something for us, okay? So just want to kind of put that out there. So before we present any speakers or the program, we're going to welcome Jo Carson. She is our CARA Vice President representing the California Teachers Association Retired Division to lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance. Jo, hello.
It's a teacher thing. Stand. Here. Everybody ready? Yeah. You just do that.
Never heard of that one.
Thank you so much.
I've never.
Okay, I'm gonna need some of these teachers to help me keep this class quiet. Where are my teachers? I got some teachers in the house. Besides Joe, some teachers, some principals, some vice. Okay, security. So we would like to begin this convention by recognizing that we are gathered on the tribal territory of the Ohlone tribal group. I would like to introduce one of CARA's board members from the San Diego Dems for Equality, Ms. Tish Leon, to lead us in this recognition. Tish.
The California Alliance for Retired Americans wishes to honor the homeland of the First Nations people of California. CARA acknowledges that the land where we live, work, and enjoy is the unceded territory of the First National Tribal people since time began. CARA wants to offer recognition and respect to counter the doctrine of discovery with the true story of the original tribal people who are here, and to support the reconciliation of a government-to-government relationship of these sovereign nations. We are surrounded by their traditional ancestral territory, and we must strive to understand the spiritual knowledge First Nation people carry. Their strong culture, values have enabled First Nations resilience to survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Tish. Thank you, Tish. So we have a great program in store for you today. We have some victories to celebrate. We have great speakers that we are going to learn from. If you have a telephone, put it on mute. Please. Thank you. Okay, back to great speakers to learn from, incredible issue briefings, elections, entertainment, and a whole lot more. This event would not be possible without the generosity of the Teamsters 2010 and our many sponsors and donors. Please take a look at the program book to see the list of wonderful donors. And for those in the room, please, if you choose, wear a mask when you're not eating or drinking or speaking. Let's keep everyone safe as we can. So let's get this party started. So that is, if you're comfortable, we're comfortable. If you registered by Zoom, you should have received a mailing with our beautiful program book and some other materials. And of course, those of you who are here, you all got one. We will be using these materials during the convention. In the middle of the program book, you will find the agenda for today. And if you want to follow along, those of you in person have the materials at your seat. There will be some, as always, some slight changes on the agenda because of time zone differences, our legislators and et cetera. But you have the basic program as it was planned. Okay, because this is a hybrid meeting, it is a little more complicated to manage. So for this reason, when the speakers are talking, we ask that everyone mute their Zoom or their phone. And the folks in person, be quiet. We will also be disabling the chat on Zoom until we open for questions and answers, which will be moderated by the CARA staff. We will take as many questions as time allows from participants in person and participants in Zoom. We will also be voting on bylaws, resolutions, and board members today. Those of you who are delegates from organization should have a red card and a green card. So if you are a delegate and you do not have those cards, please go to the registration desk and get your cards. Okay? So at this point, and the thing is, you know, what color to use when we start voting. And that is just the delegates who have been appointed by the different organizations, the different that you all are representing. There are some seats over here for those of you that are coming in now. You have to, there's some over here. Just okay. So at this point, it is my great honor. I believe Lorena is here, okay? Then then we will move forward. And we will ask Mr. Keith Brown of Alameda County to come forth and give us remarks. And as I give up the mic, I won't be sitting down each time in between, because if I do that, we're gonna need a forklift to get me up. So I'll be standing in the corner next to the flag.
Good morning, everyone. And it's good to see so many people here today, and also a huge shout out to the educators here. I come actually from the California Teachers Association. I was a classroom teacher in Oakland for over 24 years, and past president of the Oakland Education Association. So just appreciate the work that everyone does, but it's also good to see our educators. And again, my name is Keith Brown, and I'm currently the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Alameda Labor Council. Thank you. It's a true honor to have the opportunity to say a few words as you begin your important work today. While we were born at different times in different places, we are all born the same. Our lifetimes are the opportunity to make a world a better place for one another and for those who follow us. In my job of leading the Alameda Labor Council, I look out for people's economic well-being, jobs that pay fairly, benefits that provide health care, pensions that bring security. But today, all of that is threatened by greedy CEOs. Also, all of that is threatened here in California by electricity bills that are 65% higher than the national average. Housing that is 100% higher than the national average. And an overall cost of living that is 42% higher than the rest of the country. But next year's Social Security increase will be less than $50. I'm no mathematician, I'm a English and social studies teacher, but those numbers, thank you. But those numbers make things worse, not better. People just can't keep up now. And while we have political leaders who support higher wages and better pensions, too few of them consider the price that their policies raise. It doesn't help when California governments add $100,000 fees to the price of homes, rising mortgage payments, $500 a month. It doesn't help when California governments add $15,000 fees on each new small apartment, raising rents by nearly $200 a month. It doesn't help when Public Utility Commission raises our electricity rates to the point we can't keep our lights on. Shrinking what a pension can buy doesn't help any of you. Shrinking what a paycheck can pay for doesn't help any of the workers I represent. But together, we can work together and change things for the betterment of all, retired workers and workers currently, and also the working poor and the youth. Together, we can work together to make the world different. I appreciate the work that you do. Have a great conference. And again, my name is Keith Brown, Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Alameda Labor Council. Thank you.
We thank you, Keith, for those wonderful remarks, so those cheering us on and actually for sharing information, which helps us to do the work we do. So at this point, it is my honor to welcome the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the California Labor Federation, Ms. Lorena Gonzalez, to say a few words of welcome and support. The Labor Fed is one of CARA's most important supporters and allies, and we are so proud to have Lorena out of her busy schedule to come down from SAC and spend a little time with us. Lorena.
Well, thank you. And I'm so sorry to be joining you virtually, but I have to say it is impressive to see how many people you have on this Zoom and in person. What a great hybrid conference. And so thank you to CARA for doing all the hard work to getting so many people out. This is exactly what we want to start with. How do we motivate more folks to be coming out and kind of getting past the blues that we all felt during the pandemic? I know the pandemic is ongoing in many ways, but how do we get our volunteer base back? And I think that, we've been talking a lot at the Labor Fed about young workers and how young workers are organizing and they're excited and they're seeking a community. But we can't forget the original union members as well. And as much as we love new, young, excited organizers and union members, we need the wisdom and the experience of those who have been in the labor movement for a very long time, have retired out of it, still care very much about these issues. So I know you all have done a great job this year. 700 people out to protect Social Security and Medicare. That is outstanding. And that is the kind of volunteer actions that we need to continue to push in times of crisis, to continue to push on some of our legislation that we do jointly together, and to push on these ideas of retirement security and beating inflation. Obviously, these are big issues for all of us, whether you're currently in the workforce or retired. The other thing I wanted to put a plug in for, and I know you'll hear about it later, is political activism. Now, I know it's been a little tough, right? Like the pandemic changed a lot of things. Some people aren't answering their phones anymore. Some people aren't home or answering the door. We're not able to communicate and to connect as well as we have been in the past about politics. But we still have to try. And so this year for 2024, looking into 2024, the Labor Federation is really going to focus on a couple key areas. Last time we were asked, last election cycle, to go to Nevada and help save the Senate. We did that, and there was great turnout. But this year, we're going to focus on some of those congressional seats that we think we can win in a presidential. There's a couple in the Valley, in Orange County, in Los Angeles. So, you know, we will have a number of opportunities to really go out and see and talk to union members. We're going to do the good old fashioned labor to labor, neighbor to neighbor, trying to get our union members to come out and make the difference. We know if union members had come out in 2022 in those Valley races, in that Los Angeles race, that we would have a different congressional delegation. And that's what we're going to focus on, because we need to get this House back. It is absolutely crazy. I think all of us have been watching with horror what the Republicans have done in, not that we're partisan, but what they've done to the House of Representatives in the last few weeks. It's just crazy. And we just need to get a pro-worker, pro-union, pro-retiree majority back in the House of Representatives. So that's going to be some of our focus this year. And we're going to continue to work hand in hand and see how we can motivate and activate a base of volunteers who are currently in the union movement and who have spent their lives in the union movement, and we'll continue to push our agenda forward. Thank you all for coming out. Have a very successful and exciting conference, and kudos to all of the leadership for developing such a great hybrid program.
So we thank you, Lorena. And before I go any further, would you please raise your hand if there is an empty seat near you? Okay, so there are plenty of empty seats. There are plenty of empty seats within the spaces. So for those of you to come in, just kind of say hello and scoot on past, okay? So at this point, we're going to move forward with the business at hand. And we're going to kind of do this probably a little different at most conventions. We're going to kind of do some of the nitty-gritty work and then some fun, and then the gritty work, then some fun. So we can keep you awake and apart and active. So at this point, some really, really serious stuff that we need to take care of is the bylaws amendments. So we're going to take care of that business right now. Our CARA Board of Directors is proposing Richard Holober, our CARA Secretary, work with the board to suggest some of these changes. And he will run us through the proposals. Following his presentation, we will ask for a motion and a second to accept these proposals. Then discussions, and then the delegates will vote yes and no. And here is Richard.
Thank you very much. And good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Isn't it great just to be together in person? It seems like it's been a long, long time, as well as everyone who's joining us over Zoom. What a great turnout. I'm just thrilled to be part of this organization. Louder! I'm thrilled to be part of CARA. Great organization, and it's one that the organization I represent, which is the Consumer Federation of California, has belonged to for 20 years, and we've always worked closely with CARA and admired CARA's great leadership for seniors and for all people fighting for their rights and for justice. Now,
You gotta talk into that mic so we can hear you.
sorry, how's that? Want it even louder?
Yeah.
I'll scream. Because there's nothing quite as stimulating as bylaws changes, right? This is what everyone I know is here for, and this is the highlight of the day. Okay, so early this year, a committee of the CARA board reviewed the bylaws and we brainstormed edits and we proposed some changes. And we wrote these up. They were brought back to the full board to review, to discuss, to edit. And now we are bringing these bylaws change proposals to this meeting for approval. There's really one very significant change. Up until now, CARA is an organization of organizations. You're all delegates because you are representing some membership organization, either a labor organization or a community-based organization. And that has provided a tremendous foundation, and we want to keep building. So we're bringing in more organizational members, and we want to open our membership to individual members as well, as a way to continue to build and expand our base and our power and our outreach throughout the state of California. So this is the major change. It creates a new category for individual members. And individual members will have voting rights. They will participate if they wish in our conventions. And we welcome the addition, we hope, of a great many individual members. Now, in doing that, we also want to honor the organizational members that really have provided all the support, the vast bulk of our dues income. So we're creating in these bylaws a schedule for voting rights at our convention. And let me point you to this, I don't know, orange buff colored sheet. It's in your booklet. This is the outline of all the bylaws changes that are being proposed. So we're adding a new category of individual membership with a very modest dues to belong. And then we're altering the voting strength to recognize that large organizations who bring tens of thousands of members, perhaps, to bear as members of CARA should have some additional strength when it comes to this convention, which is the ruling body of CARA. So we're increasing organizational voting strength based on the membership size with a maximum of 60 votes for the largest organizations, 10 votes for the smaller organizations, and different amounts in between. Once these bylaws are adopted and effective with our next convention, we're creating 2 new board seats for individual members. So in our 2025 convention, there will be available 2 board seats for individual members. We're also proposing that elections for board members will be done by a plurality vote of delegates. There are some other changes that describe the process for roll call voting in the event that there is a vote taken at the convention. And there are folks who believe that vote does not necessarily reflect the voting strength of delegates because we start with 1 delegate, 1 vote. There may be delegations that want to invoke proportional voting. there's a process to call for a roll call vote, in which case the delegations would cast the number of votes to which they are entitled. We're adding President Emerita as an additional executive officer. There are other changes that really are technical, language, grammatical, and cleanup changes. If you have questions, I'd be more than happy to review those. So that is the quick summary of the bylaws changes.
I just said to him, don't go away. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to ask for a motion.
Zombro.
Second.
And before asking, I love this group, we've got a second. So if need be, we will take 2 questions from Zoom and 2 questions in person. So Richard, I'm not gonna take that, you're gonna take that on. And Susan will assist you with that.
Yes. Question.
Hi, so on 4.2, each individual member can cast, right? Instead of face.
Thank you. Yeah, good work. That's the kind of question I like. Spelling error, thank you. Yes,
Could you repeat the question? We didn't hear it back
it's a
here.
spelling error.
Spelling error. Oh, so it's really not.
Sorry.
Are there other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I'm a new person here, but as I'm looking at this and bringing in individuals, my question is whether or not that will dilute the labor aspect of this and the labor organizations versus individuals that could come from anywhere. Thank you.
Let me address that. And that is one of the issues that we considered. I think we have addressed it properly. First, we are both labor and community organizations that constitute CARA. And we are mindful that there could, in some theoretical, let's call it hostile environment, a bunch of people could show up and, join and pay dues and, try to swamp the organization. I hope we become important enough that we'll get thousands and thousands of people trying to do that as individuals. This is why we adopted the voting, proportion of voting rules that we adopted. We believe that takes care of those concerns. So if you are a delegate from a large labor union, for example, you would cast 60 votes should we ever have to go to a roll call. We also have seats on the board for 2 individuals. I believe currently we have somewhere in the range of 50 board seats, perhaps more than 50, divided among sustaining unions that each get an automatic seat. Other of the larger unions, I believe we have 20 seats for the larger unions that are not paying at a sustaining membership level, and 20 seats for community organizations. So I think we have proper safeguards, but that also allow individuals to feel that they're full participants.
All right, we've had 2 questions from those who are present here, and we have 2 questions coming in from Zoom land. So Sarah Cleveland, you'll be up next, and then Randy Hicks. So Sarah Cleveland, please ask your question.
In the listing of what the officers were, you have President Emerita. And are we just assuming that all the presidents in the future are going to be female? I would think it would be Emerita / Emeritus.
I think that can be addressed through, the board's cleanup, rights to fix language, but thank you for that. I mean, unless there's an objection, I would take the sentiment to, say that is a proper change. Thank you.
Another question?
Randy Hicks, out in Zoom.
I have two questions.
You have a question?
Okay, the first question is under the payment schedule, number 2. It says that 10 conductual votes for 1 delegate. It also says the number of members. If your number of members is below the 15 to 50, like if you're at 10, is it still $50?
That's correct.
That's okay. So if you're, but because it says in 0 to, I guess that 15 to 50 members of your organization, or 15 to 15 members who joined out, or who joined CARA? That's the question I wanted to throw.
Need to repeat the question, please.
Sure, I will. Okay, under payment schedule, number 2, where it says membership fees, number 4. It says number of members 0 to 15 for 50, and it's $50, right? That's what I understand. If you are below 15, are you still charged the $50 fee? Like,
Yeah.
let's say you have an organization that has only 20, you have an organization that has only 10 members, and they're still members of CARA. Is it still $50?
Yes.
If you don't have the money, I'll give it to you.
All right.
Okay,
From Zoom land, any other questions here from those who are in person? We have.
oh, wait a minute, it was not done yet, it was not done yet.
Randy, we gotta move on, Randy. All right, we have a question here. All right.
To ask, what is the voting strength? So everybody voting now, what is the voting strength now?
Right now, if you look at the schedule on the front page, right now it would be where it says 10 votes, 1 delegate, it would be 1 vote, 1 delegate. Where it says 60 votes, 6 delegates, today it's 6 votes, 6 delegates. So we're increasing by a factor of 10 times the current voting strength of delegates. So if this were to become controversial right now and we went to a roll call, the largest organizations would have 6 votes. After it's adopted, you get 60 votes.
You have a question in Zoom, Len? All right, we have time. Okay, one more.
Hello?
From Zoom, and that will be Karen Fishkin.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Am I unmuted? Hello?
We hear you, please speak.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I believe every organization should have representation from ignorance. So I raise my hand to ignorance. Can you please explain the difference between how votes are counted now and plurality? Thank you.
The bylaws clarifies that when we have elections for officers, vice presidents, with the exception of those that are designated organizational representatives, those will be by a plurality vote. So if there are 5 people running, you know, and there are 2 seats, the top 2 vote getters would be elected. That's a plurality.
We want to thank Richard for taking on the technicalities of this. If you have other questions, it is my suggestion, please put them in writing, send them to the office with information of how to get back to you, and we would do that. Because if we, try to go into all of the nitty gritty ups to this, we will be here until 10 o'clock tonight. And I don't think you want to do that. So you got an overall of it. And so I think most of us are, somewhat aware of what it means. And it really boils down to that individual, one of the main things is that our individual members are really a part of us, because we have many folks who come to us that way. And they work just as hard as the labor unions, the community, the family, et cetera. So therefore they do. That's our feelings. So, so at this point, I'm gonna call for a vote. And I'm gonna ask those of you, and these are delegates only, so you have, but then I'm gonna do card. Like Windsor, hold up your cards. Hold up your card. Okay, the red card, oh, well, okay, the green cards are up. I was, no votes first, but, let's put the green cards down. Let's do this real quick. Do we have no votes? No. We have no votes, so we do this by acclamation. It is now Ohio. Richard, you're a job well done. Well done. We're gonna send you to Washington to help some folks out there. A little innuendo there, okay. All right, so our next order of business is the consideration of a resolution brought to us by affiliates, CAT, or the board. We have a resolution process, and 2 resolutions were submitted, which you all should have received. Our resolution committee reviewed these resolutions, put them in the correct format, and presenting them to you. So our resolution committee included Tom Rankin, Margaret Shelda, and Henny Keller. They will present the next resolution. So Margaret and Tom, there they are. Good morning. Your resolutions are on white sheets of paper somewhere in your packet. So take those out. I'm going to be presenting resolution number 1, which was presented by the Marin County CARA Action Team. It has to do with restoring the climate. And while today is a very lovely day here, a Category 5 hurricane just hit central Mexico with less than a day's warning. So we know we have very serious, I drew a reverb. Am I too close? So I will spare you reading all the whereases, and I will just read the resolves. Now, therefore, be it resolved that CARA recognizes our obligation to future generations to work to restore a safe climate and declares climate restoration a priority goal of our organization. And be it further resolved that CARA works to support local, state, and federal legislation to propose a climate treaty that would restore and stabilize greenhouse gas levels as a common climate goal. The resolution committee approves this and asks for your yes vote on this resolution.
So,
All those in favor, please raise your green cards. All those opposed, a red card. By acclamation, the resolution is adopted. Thank you.
Point of order. Point of order. I believe red cards raised in the previous vote. I believe there were red cards raised in the previous vote.
No, we will just say that it was passed.
All right, our next resolution, is entitled Protect, Improve, and Expand Social Security and Medicare, which, as you all know, has been one of our primary purposes. And reasons for existence for years. So, like Margaret, I'm only going to read the resolves, but I think it's important that you read the whereases because it gives a lot of background as to what's going on right now in Washington regarding Social Security and the threats to Social Security and Medicare. So the resolves are resolved that CARA make every effort to ensure that all California candidates for federal office take a pledge not to cut Social Security or Medicare benefits. Resolved that CARA continue to advocate for legislation to solve Social Security's financing problem by scrapping or lifting the cap on taxable wages to increase benefits and to eliminate offsets for people receiving pensions from non-covered employment, WEP and GPO, and to achieve Medicare for all. Resolved that CARA work to educate younger generations still active in the workforce on the role of Social Security and the role of Social Security and Medicare will play in their retirement security and how the future viability of these programs can be assured. And resolved that CARA focus its 2024 advocacy efforts on increasing public awareness of the importance of Social Security and Medicare to the well-being of our society and economy and the need to protect, improve, and expand these essential programs. You're the chair. Is there any discussion? Seeing none.
I have a question.
Yes. Yes.
I'm concerned about the generality of this and Medicare Advantage, which is destroying Medicare.
We just passed a resolution in the state legislature on the problem with Medicare Advantage. So I think we sort of have that covered. Any other questions? All right. We have a question on Zoom.
Yeah. I'm aware that we passed Pilar Chavo's resolution, and that's good. I do think that latest studies show that Medicare, its costs have been substantially increased by Medicare Advantage. And the money that's currently being wasted on those plans should be shifted to expand Medicare benefits. I'm wondering if we could incorporate some language to that effect into this resolution.
Well, if anyone has language, you have to present it in writing, and I think that's sort of a complicated issue. And as I said, we did pass a resolution through the state legislature, which will be presented to all of our congressional delegates, and I think the administration as well. Dwane could answer questions on that if you have any, but we sort of have that base covered, and the board can decide to make that a part of our campaign issues in 2024. But it's a little complicated, I think, to try to amend this unless someone has an amendment to bring up. Yes, Kenny.
I think amend this by putting in Medicare Advantage. We would like to do away with Medicare Advantage or Echo Reach. We can do that. There are other people I think that have that. I think it can go in. what we would like to do is if, we could ask right here, how many of you want us to put in a statement about Medicare Advantage and ACO REACH?
Okay, just let me suggest then, because this is complicated, the resolution is written and gives history on two issues. It doesn't give history on Medicare Advantage. It gets sort of complicated. If you want to include Medicare Advantage, I think you really need to include the whereas's, the origins and the problems with Medicare Advantage. But you know, maybe we should, someone could write something down. This is the normal procedure for convention amendments to resolutions. You write it down, you present it to everyone, we read it and debate it, and that's how it works. So if anyone wants to do that,
Got a question, Tom?
yeah.
So the person in the very back of the room, orange top, yes, you had your hand raised first.
Thank you. I'm a Communication Workers of America retired union steward. I guess you get to be a union steward forever. AJR 4, which is the resolution you're talking about, I understand, and backed by CARA, which I commend CARA for this. When is it going to hit Biden's desk? Because my enrollment right now with Communication Workers of America and AT&T, they are changing our medical benefits and forcing us to go in to a Medicare Advantage plan with United Healthcare. Our other option is to pay for our medical out of pocket after working 30 years and being promised those benefits. So when's it going to hit the president's desk so it can have an effect on the current enrollment? Because we're enrolling right now and we're going to be forced into it.
Go ahead. Thank you so much for your question. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dwane. I'm the legislative director for CARA. Really excited about all the enthusiasm.
Please.
Louder. Really excited about all the enthusiasm for AJR 4, but I would want to ask everybody to, if we could just, one, keep the question specific to this resolution. To answer your question specifically, AJR 4 has already been sent from the legislature, and it will be, I'm not sure if the Biden administration has already received it, but it's already been submitted. So it's passed the legislature, the copy of the resolution is already been sent out to every congressional representative in California, as well as the Biden administration. So, but I would ask for everybody here to keep the question specific to this resolution. Again, our legislative committee, chaired by the wonderful Annie Kelly, Keith Yamamoto, and Michael Nye, we will be talking about our legislative platform for next year in the coming weeks. But for just to kind of keep business moving, I would really respectfully ask that we keep business specific to these resolutions. So thank you again for your questions throughout this issue.
That's it? All right, that was.
My question.
Hold on, everybody, we have an amendment that's going to be read right now, hold on.
It's just a whereas, please listen.
Whereas efforts to privatize Medicare by means of so-called Medicare Advantage and ACO REACH scams have continued under both parties' administration. That's the whereas, and for the resolve we would add to the first resolve after Medicare benefits and oppose Medicare Advantage programs.
And
And ACO REACH. So, any questions on the event? Yeah.
You have to dance up there.
Would it be possible to, my name is Anna.
Can't hear you.
My name is Anna Malino. I am from the Movement to End Privatization of Medicare, and I'm really honored to be here. It's my first time here. I was wondering if you could include the word privatization in the very last resolved sentence.
If you have an amendment, please put it in writing and bring it up here so we know what I'm talking about.
Or come up.
Come on, I mean, you know.
We gotta move on.
Richard,
Call the question.
the question has been called. All in favor of calling the question, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed to calling the question?
No.
Motion carries. So we're now voting on the resolution, voting on the amendments, which I will read again. We're adding a whereas, and it reads, efforts to privatize Medicare by means of so-called Medicare Advantage and ACO REACH scams have continued under both parties' administrations. And we are adding, under the first resolve and the post Medicare Advantage program and ACO REACH programs. Okay, so we have added those.
Point of order,
Yes.
I would like to know if the person who made the amendment accepts what she asked for. Can't the person that made the amendment accept that?
Who asked for it?
The woman in the back here that asked for the word privatization to be added.
What's the question?
Well,
Doesn't that person have the right to accept that?
I think that's implied in opposing Medicare Advantage because those are basically sort of privatized. That is the privatization. I think we're okay with. I think it's okay. So-called, and let's add, it says efforts to privatize Medicare by means in the whereas, what's already.
The point of order was whether or not the individual that made the supplement accepts or not accept. That's process, I believe.
A friendly amendment.
A friendly.
I would, the question's been called for, I would ask for people who support the amendments to raise their green cards or red card. Green cards, all in favor of the proposed amendments? All opposed to the proposed amendments? So none, on the amended resolution, all in favor of the amended resolution, please raise your green card. All opposed to the amended resolution with the red cards. Okay, the motion carries, and I thank God that I had experience of doing these things at the Labor Federation.
Oh, okay. Thank God we have people on the CARA board who have years of experience of doing this kind of stuff. So we appreciate your input and your comments, and we're moving on. How many of you vote yes on that? Okay, so this is one of the, as I mentioned earlier, if you're following the agenda in the book where we had to make a change, and basically the change is because our legislators in Washington DC, we have to flex with their schedules. So at this point, we're going to do the election of officers. So before moving to the next part of the program, I want to take a minute to acknowledge the most wonderful, the most hardest working, the most lovable staff in the world on this planet. And that's the CARA staff. For those of you who know, it's amazing. And I love that song. It's amazing, amazing grace. We're blessed that we have folks through this whole state. And remember, you know how big we are. We take up all the West Coast and almost and stuff. But we work so well because of the people who work for us. So first I'd like to introduce, because we're so excited with this being our 20th anniversary, of course, we're looking back. So a couple of our previous staff members who helped us build CARA from the beginning and to get to this point, they both flew into town just to be here with us today. So first we're welcoming back Vishnu. And all of those applause for you who don't know that's the Southern California folks hanging in there for Vishnu. Okay, and so let me just do a little preview, little comment about Vishnu as he is now. He started at CARA in Southern Cal, organizing, covering the LA County to the border, and that's the southern border. He filled this position for about 2 years. Then he moved north to cover the Central Valley and headed up the first senior vote program for the 2018 election. He is now living in Seattle, has traveled abroad home to the other side of the world, and came back and got married. Vishnu, I think he's on. And that's what I'm asking, okay? As soon as I find out Michelle, you'll know. So is Vishnu on Zoom? No?
Haven't arrived yet.
Okay, hasn't arrived yet, so we're gonna go on. What about Jenny Chan? Okay. Jenny started with us as a part-time LA County organizer. She then moved to become full-time and became our communications organizer, helping with our media and social media graphic designs and flyers and so much more. Is Jenny here? Or is she now working with one of the legislators? Okay, I guess. Are these people here? Okay. Anyway, we're recognizing it. And going back, Janet Canterbury. Janet worked with us for several years, first as a Southern California organizer, including Los Angeles. She helped us start our Bakersfield CAT. Janet also helped us organize our Social Security story collection effort during the Bowles-Simpson area to try and privatize Social Security and Medicare. Many of us remember that when we were all creepy old folks. CARA collected thousands of signatures against privatization and put together a book of photos and stories that we delivered to Senator Feinstein and presented to the California delegation. These are some of the folks who helped build us. Catherine Smith. Is with us via Zoom. Catherine, are you there? And this year she helped CARA edit and coordinate our 20th anniversary program. She was our administrative coordinator for 12 years. And now that she's back in California, she's still a CARA person. We'll give her a round of applause. Okay, now for our current staff. Our organizers and staff, when I call you, I want you to come up, please. Our organizers include Susan Myers, our Southern California organizer, and covering the Inland Empire, San Diego County, Orange County, and most recently LA County, covering the area for Karla Salazar, who recently left us to took a permanent position with ASME and will continue to be a support to us. Okay, next we have Yesenia. Out the kitchen. As I said, we have the hardest working staff, okay? Yesenia, who is our Central Valley organizer, Bakersfield, Fresno, Stockton, Modesto, Sacramento, Yolo Cats. She also staffs our communication committee. She also does, along with Cynthia and others, all the translation from English to Spanish, back and forth and more and more. FX Crowley. So FX is our newest employee. And he's our Bay Area organizer, covering Santa Clara County, San Francisco, Marin, and Sonoma counties, Contra Costa, Solano counties, and Alameda County. So you know these folks earn their money. It's just driving from one to the other. Those of us, we know what that's about. But FX comes to us with many, many years of experience and a very knowledgeable San Francisco political person. Welcome. A light and a beacon, and who is a person who has brought to us much. Mr. Dwane Camp Jr. Dwane is our legislative and political director. He staffs the legislative committee and works with the senior vote program. But most important, when Dwane walks through the halls of the Capitol, they tip their hats. He has the respect and the air of the legislators. So he is a very important person as we move forward, dealing with more complicated and more legislation. So Dwane, welcome aboard. Cynthia Lopez is CARA's. He is our administrative coordinator. She's the person who answers all those phone calls. Oversees our bookkeeping, our database, our website, and all things administrative. She is the glue that holds us together. And all of this is possible because at the helm of CARA, and who has been here from the beginning, is the most amazing woman that I have ever worked with, Jody Reed. Jody is our executive director a million times over. And I think most of you know that. CARA would not exist the way it does without Jody Reed. And I wasn't here for the 20th, but I became on board on the 19th year, so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, I've been there. I see, and this woman is amazing. And so we are just so grateful for the tremendous staff we have. And if you've had any interactions with our staff, you know why we feel the way we feel. Our staff is the best. So now let's get to the board elections. In terms of the board, CARA board, you should know that we have one of the biggest boards anywhere. Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to say thank you to you, Pauline.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
I do what I do because the people that I have to do. And the blessing, the blessing. So you should know that we have one of the biggest boards anywhere. We have over 35 board members. All must be from a CARA affiliated organization and good finance. When we say good standing, you know what that means, financial standing, okay? And in 2 years, we just approved voting for 2 individual members to the board. And we try to have an equal number of labor and community vice presidents. With the labor board members, they are appointed by their union. And the community vice president is usually elected by plurality at the biennium. Okay. Convention moving forward. We also have some seats appointed by the executive secretary treasurer of the Californian Labor Federation, and some seats that are appointed by the board to make sure we have a geographic and ethnic diversity in our board. Our bylaws do require that anyone interested in running for a seat on the board must provide their intent to run form 30 days prior to the convention, which this time is September 25th. We did receive all of these forms from the candidates who will meet today by that date. And we have no contested races. Hallelujah. Excuse me. There are just the right number of candidates running for the open seats. Our board elections are staggered and each number is elected for a 4-year term, so that we have continuity in history on the board. When there's not a contested race, we can accept the motion to elect a person or slate of candidates by acclamation, which is what we will do today. Once we have voted for all the candidates, then we will introduce those appointed by the union, by the California Labor Federation, and by the board of directors. And all will then be officially installed. So without further ado, let's introduce our king, our people. Keith Yamanoto, you're on. Okay. Keith is running for CARA treasurer, representing Karla, Sacramento community-based affiliate. And can I have a motion to elect Keith by acclamation? Is there acclamation? We don't need a second. You got the job. Okay. So don't you keep your green cards and your red cards, and Keith, now I'd like to.
Oh, they're coming back. I think so.
Okay, so now we're going to introduce the slate of community vice president running for the 10 seats that are open, and guess what? We have 10 candidates. So as I call your name, please stand up if you're in the room and stay standing until all are introduced. Those on Zoom, please raise your hand. And the staff will spotlight you, and I will start the incumbents and then introduce the new candidates. Okay. David Williams represents from Living Wages Coalition. David is not here. He is in medical rehab, and we send him our prayers and good wishes. DeQuetta Alexander from Easter Hill United Methodist Church. In the back. Janie Whiteford from Sika. Journey was just sitting there in the wheelchair. Okay, so she'll be back. Okay. Louis Duran from Claremont Democratic Club. I believe he's on Zoom. Myrtle Braxton from Laurel Park Community Association. Okay, there's Myrtle. And Pat Stanio from Progressive Democrats of Los Angeles. I also believe she's on Zoom. Okay, now we'll move to our new candidates. Imelda, and if I mess up your name, just chalk it up to I messed up your name. Okay. Imelda Seja Bukowitz.
Here.
All right, but Democratic Women of Kern. Lucia Montana, Senior in Disability Action.
Yeah.
Here. Okay. Michelle Hayes, Richmond Commission on Aging. Okay. Sharon O'Hara, Orange County Democratic Club. I think she's on Zoom also. Okay, since we have 10 open seats and 10 candidates, can I have a motion to elect a slate of community vice presidents by acclamation? So moved. Thank you. Okay, so you can sit for now, because in a minute you're gonna have to get up again. So you know, I'll make you stand all that time. Okay, so next we want to introduce you to some of the board members that do not need to be elected, but are being appointed by their union, by the California Labor Fed, or by the CARA board. First, we will introduce our vice presidents appointed by their union. Here they are. Please stand or raise your hand if on Zoom. Aditha Adams, United Domestic Workers. Connie Barker, SEIU 2015. Jim Bano, International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers. Welcome. Joe Carson, California Teachers Association, retired. Kenny Kelly, California Federation of Teachers. Mary Ann Massenberg, United Auto Workers. All right, for the auto workers. Suzanne Paradis, California State Retirees. Dan Prince, who is the District Council of Iron Workers. Dan is in the hospital after recovering from a very serious automobile accident, a car actually hitting him as a pedestrian. Again, we send our prayers and well wishes to him. And Robert Turner from Teamsters Council 42 Joint Council. And he's probably in Southern Cal. Welcome Union Vice Presidents, new and returning. Okay, you can sit for right now too, because you're gonna have to get up. Or if you choose to stand. Now we'll introduce the three vice presidents appointed by Lorena Gonzalez from the California Labor Fed. And they are Tom Rankin, Margaret Shelliga, and Ramon Tasselblock. And finally, the board of CARA is appointing Catherine Donahue, representing healthcare for all, physicians for a national health plan in Humboldt County, to make sure that our North State is represented on the board all the way to the Oregon border. Please stand. So now, if all of you will stand again, all the names I call, whatever your. The squeaking wheel just, okay, we still got a lot more stuff to go in that squeaking wheel, so. Okay, so if everyone would stand. Returning members, new members, board members, vice presidents, wherever you are. If you could all raise your right hand and answer these questions to the affirmative. You have been elected to the office of Treasurer Vice President for the California Alliance for Retired Americans. Will you work to make this organization grow?
Yes, yes,
Will you represent CARA's goals and interests statewide?
yes.
Will you attend all meetings of the board of directors and all events if humanly possible?
Yes.
Will you pledge to be loyal to CARA? Yes, to the affirmative, to all with the power vested in me as an installing officer. I declare you are all duly installed and ready to get to work. Congratulations. So we've given all our new folks a warm welcome. We look forward, new, old, and continue working together and to do what we need to do. Okay, so are we moving forward with our
Yes, we are.
legislative folks? So I'm gonna get to sit down for a while. Hey. We will now go into our candidate forum, and that is the real show.
Yeah.
To lead us through our candidate forum is CARA's legislative chair and vice president for the California Federation of Teachers, Ms. Henny Kelly. So Ms. Henny is on you.
This is the part I've been looking forward to. As you know, in March and then in November, we will be voting for someone to replace Dianne Feinstein as one of our 2 California US senators. Governor Newsom has named LaFonza Butler as our senator for the next 18 months, but she has chosen not to run. And so we have 3 other candidates who are all going to talk to us today. Yay. We invited all the candidates who have already declared their intention to run. Since the primary is in March, we will be voting soon for the top candidates who appear on the ballot. None of the other candidates responded to our invitation. And as you know, CARA does not endorse candidates, but we look for the best candidates and we probably vote for the best candidates. Each candidate will have 15 minutes to present. We have asked each candidate to answer some questions in their 8-minute presentation. These questions are included in your program book. Following their presentation, we will have 5 minutes for Q&A. We will alternate between the Zoom participants and the in-person participants. Then the candidates will have 2 more minutes to wrap up. The candidates selected the time slot they preferred. So first up, in person up there, is Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who represents the Alameda County. Staff will keep time and run the Q&A. Thank you very much. She's
Hi,
on.
folks. This is Chris from Congresswoman Barbara Lee's office. She is stuck on the House floor right now with the ongoing speaker situation, and our campaign manager is going to join the Zoom in just a moment.
Okay, well, can we wait? We could go on to somebody else, or we could. If you want. All right, what we're going to do. Something all planned. Can't do it. She said that's a tape, so it'll be a little shorter. So why don't we go to the tape for Adam Schiff? And then we'll get the two women after that.
Hi, it's Adam Schiff, and it's great to be with you. I only wish I could be in person. California's retirees deserve to have their voices heard by leaders in Washington, because so many of the decisions we make in Congress directly impact your lives. Unfortunately, my Republican colleagues have made it clear they're not interested in working together to address the real issues facing Americans. Instead, they're mired in a weeks-long feud that has left the Speaker's chair vacant and the House unable to function, even as the clock is ticking down once again towards a potential government shutdown. And even if we manage to avoid a shutdown yet again, extreme Republicans are trying to gut Medicare and Social Security. That is completely unacceptable. Social Security and Medicare are the most successful anti-poverty program in American history. And it just makes sense that we ensure these programs are well funded. I'm very proud of my record of fighting on behalf of California's seniors in Congress to protect your right to retire with dignity and security, to strengthen Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and bring down the cost of living. More than ever, Californians need an effective leader in the U.S. Senate, someone who doesn't back down from the toughest fights and gets things done. My father is 95 years old, and if I wasn't already a champion for seniors, he'd darn well make sure that I was. I will always stand up against dangerous cuts to Social Security benefits for our seniors and for future generations. And I'll fight tooth and nail against efforts to privatize Social Security, which all of you have paid into for your lives. Right now, working families are paying their fair share into Social Security, while too many of the wealthy simply are not. And it's time to fix that and ensure that everyone is paying to ensure that this program is there for those who need it. In the Senate, I'll fight to raise the tax cap on the Social Security fund so that working families can count on Social Security for generations to come. We also need to support our seniors who are struggling with housing insecurity. Roughly 1 out of every 5 seniors in California are living at or below the poverty level and unable to meet even the most basic needs. I'm proud to have brought millions of dollars back to my district to fund housing for seniors experiencing homelessness. And I've introduced legislation to protect the affordable housing programs that many seniors rely on in the event of a shutdown. In the Senate, I'll fight to bring more federal funds back to California and get rid of the filibuster so we can actually pass and implement affordable housing policies. We also have to address the increasing cost, the out-of-pocket cost for prescription drugs, because no one should be forced to choose between putting food on the table or paying for life-saving medications. We've taken a number of steps in the right direction by capping the amount that Medicare Part D beneficiaries had to pay out of pocket for prescriptions, by reducing the cost of insulin, and by allowing Medicare to negotiate lower drug costs for certain drugs. But we also need to expand Medicare eligibility so that hardworking Americans who have paid into the program can receive their benefits and access them even sooner. And we need to expand the government's ability to negotiate with drug companies to lower prices for all prescription drugs, not just some of them. And we need to make sure that people who are taking care of our seniors have someone in their corner. When it comes to support for long-term care workers, let me just say, my brother and I have been with my father in and out of hospitals lately and in and out of rehabs. We see who really provides the care and just how difficult it is. My father, I love him to pieces, but he is not an easy patient. And we see how invaluable the work is that care providers give to my father and to millions of others. We need to ensure they have a living wage, good benefits, and a secure retirement. And we need to address the workforce shortage that has left many healthcare workers overworked and burned out. That is why I've introduced legislation to expand our nursing workforce by funding programs necessary to train more nurses so that we have an adequate healthcare infrastructure to respond to the growing needs of the senior community. I know there are a lot of unsung heroes, and they are the family caregivers who receive no compensation and care for elderly family members while juggling their own lives. And they deserve our support too. I'm proud to be co-sponsoring the Better Care, Better Jobs Act to extend and improve access to home and community-based services for our elderly and individuals with disabilities. Many of our seniors across California struggle with the cost of living and are even thinking about re-entering the workforce to keep up with their bills. I recently got a call from a friend who was in their 80s asking for help finding a job for exactly that reason. Many are also using Social Security to pay off their student loans. We should eliminate as much student debt as we can for everyone, but especially for those who spent decades of their lives working to pay it off, which is why I'm introducing legislation to fully relieve seniors who participate in Medicare and Social Security disability insurance of all student loan debt that dates back more than 20 years. There's a lot of work to be done to ensure our seniors can retire with dignity and security. I have a record of bringing people together and delivering results for the people of California. It's a record of effectiveness that I'm proud of, and I will put up against anyone else in this race. It's why nearly 250 current and former California elected officials and 60% of California's Democratic delegation have endorsed me, including Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. And it's why I'm the only candidate in this race to have the endorsement of 8 statewide labor unions. I would be honored to have your support as well. If you want to learn more about my campaign, you can go to adamschiff.com. And thank you so much for your support.
What I really want to say here while we're waiting for the other 2 speakers is the fact that we do not endorse, but we have here 3 of the best candidates that I have ever seen for this position. And you have a chance to vote to see who will be the candidate. And that is really important. So what we need to do is to get all your friends, I don't have many, but you might have some, and a lot of other people to vote in this election. We need the votes in March and November. Absolutely. So I think that's one of the things I would like to say. I have been listening to these three speakers, these three people, talk at least 5 different times. And let me tell you, they are good. All right, what do you want to do, guys? I can't dance, Jim. All right, here's what's gonna happen. Barbara Lee is still stuck in this there. And so what that we are gonna do is let Barbara Lee's staff, she has the facts that she would be saying, speak to us. Okey doke? She chose the last time. Barbara Lee, you know, okay? So let's go to the staff. No? They just. All right, try talking into this. We're gonna do lunch now. I would say hot damn, but then I would owe you another $5, so I'll pay that back. And then hopefully they'll be done voting and we can listen to them. Okey doke? Thank you. I'm hungry too.
Okay. Okay, again, as I said earlier, when we're dealing with our legislators, we have to work with their schedules. And with all the craziness that's going on in Washington, DC, we're just gonna be flexible. So we're going to move forward. Okay, so it's my understanding, Tom Rankin, Diana Mendoshi, Carol Garvey, and Chris Organ are serving lunches. If you are, I need you to come up front. Okay, and then in the meantime, everybody else, please stay in your seat. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna do it. And it's gonna work for everybody. If everybody go out. Louder. Okay, all right.
Tell us that again, please.
Repeat, repeat.
Oh, okay, Jody, and then we'll tell you what you do. This is what.
This table down here.
So what we have for your lunch is there
Something else.
if you be quiet and let me tell you, and then you can sing and dance together, okay? But let's get your lunches going, and since we've got to juggle this thing. So those of us that are here in person, and then I'll get to the Zoom people. So we're gonna have a team that's gonna come to you with your lunch. Yeah, if we try to get along 100 something, you coming up here, it'll be chaos. So please stay in your seat. Unless you have to go visit the important rooms. And if you do, come back and sit down in your seat. We have 3 sandwich box types of sandwich. Turkey. Okay, I'm gonna get my ruler out, my teacher ruler out in a minute and start spanking, or better yet, my nun's hat. Okay, you have turkey, tuna, or veggie. Let the person know what you want and they will deliver it to you. Please sit down and let them come to you. Please take your seat. Please.
Would you pass the veggie? Want a veggie? No. Veggie. Anybody for veggie?
Right here, down here.
Once you, hello. What? Once you get your lunch. If you need to get a drink or something, you got mouth complaint.
Coming your way.
Darn on that side. Oh. It's Ethan. I got two on that side.
Turkey.
Another turkey.
One more turkey.
Just need one.
Guys, can I have your attention for a minute? Hello? Hello? If by chance, guys, can you listen for a minute, please? Okay. If by chance one of the legislators become available while you are eating lunch, we will go to them so that you can hear. Okay? So we're on their schedule and we don't have a choice. So hopefully Barbara Lee, Katie Porter and Katie Porter will both be available soon.
Hi, my name's Art Persico. I'm a member of the San Francisco CARA CAT. I'm a co-convener here, and I'm really proud to be a member of CARA because it's so effective in what it does in representing the interests of the elderly and disabled in California. With 1 million members and excellent leadership by Executive Director Jody Reed, we have a tremendous organization, and I am glad to be a part of it. So thank you, CARA, and I can't say enough about it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bill. I'm coming at you from Long Beach, California. I've been a member of CARA since 2016. CARA has done a lot for older adults in California, from Southern California, Central California, Northern California, to advance equity, social justice, and many other things to make sure that we have a greater life as we age. So from the bottom of my heart to the CARA staff, its board, its committees, and its membership, happy 20th anniversary.
So my name is Bryan Lawler, and I am affiliated with the California School of Employees. I'm a former retiree with that union and worked as a staff person for that union. I live in Alhambra, California. I got involved in CARA recruited by a former CSEA member, and some of the favorite memories I have of CARA are activities that we do that build solidarity and build activity and help us build a better democracy. So one is the rally we did in Bakersfield in March of 2023, where CARA members, as well as a coalition of other groups supporting our issue, went to the offices of Speaker McCarthy in Bakersfield, and we definitely made our presence known. So that was, I think, an effective day. There were over 200 people there. So definitely that was something that was a effective CARA activity. So I've stayed involved because I think we do accomplish things. We have annual lobby days. That's one of, I think, a productive annual event that we do, and I think it makes a difference. So we lobby our individual legislators in the CARA region that we're part of, where I'm in the San Gabriel Valley CARA CAT. And finally, my ongoing involvement is because we are making a difference and hopefully building a more democratic society.
Hi, my name is Greg Miller. I'm with California Nurses Association Retirees, and I've been a member of CARA since 2010, and really appreciate their strong stand to support Social Security and Medicare and all the benefits that seniors and disabled get. They're very strongly defending those programs and have a good ideas for improving them and advocating for those ideas. So appreciate, of course, their work on single payer, that we passed a single payer state. And federal legislation. So very happy to be part of CARA, and sometimes we have to go up against some folks who are, say, maybe we would think are our allies, and we have to. CARA is good about that, though. We do not endorse candidates. We do not endorse politicians. So I'm glad for CARA.
Hello, this is David Walker. I'm co-chair with the Santa Rosa CAT, which is part of CARA, California Alliance for Retired Americans. Asked to say a few words, glad to. CARA was putting together a Sonoma County action team, CAT, which I joined about 6 years ago after their presentation at the Church of the Roses in Santa Rosa. The executive director, Jody Reed, was very impressive and knowledgeable, and their mission to protect Social Security and Medicare and advocate for seniors with various legislative priorities was impressive for me. CARA was a way to get involved with an organization that had been around doing good work with many CATs statewide, so I signed up. Every year we personally talk with our representatives in Sacramento, Santa Rosa, or on Zoom, and urge them to support the bills we have at the top of our list. CATs have had direct actions at the Social Security building in Santa Rosa to commemorate his birthday. CARA action teams from across the state have converged on Speaker McCarthy's office in Bakersfield to remind him to keep his hands off Social Security and Medicare. We have joined with other organizations and traveled to Reno, going door to door to encourage people to get out the vote in the critical 2022 midterm. Our recent work tabling at the Senior Expo in Santa Rosa and showing the film American Hospitals at the Glazer Center has been part of our effort to win guaranteed health care for all. We encourage anyone who cares about what is going on in the state and nation to join us. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Connie Barker. I live in Novato, California. I'm part of the Marin Cat, and I'm here to say happy 20th birthday, CARA. I love CARA because it's not a group that's of retired Americans, it's for retired Americans, which means I can be part of it even though I'm not quite retired yet. And it's a grassroots driven organization. You know, with AARP, I'm just some little dot of a person who, you know, maybe gives $15 a year or whatever. But here I have a local group, a CAT, that I'm very much part of. I get to get involved with legislative things that I care about. I get chances to go to Sacramento and lobby, or to do it by Zoom, which in the aftermath of COVID means a lot to me. It's a really wonderful organization. If you care about the elderly and the disabled and our issues, and you're looking for a place to get involved, look up your local CAT. These are good people, and they will feed you and you'll have a good time. I guarantee you that.
Hi, I'm Hallie Hammer. Happy birthday, CARA. I'm a member for many years. I'm a retired teacher and an unretired musician, and there's lots of opportunities to sing with CARA as well as pass a lot of really great legislation. The wonderful thing about CARA is you walk the walk, you talk the talk, because we get so much done, and it's a great help to seniors and people with disabilities, and I'm really proud to be part of this organization. So thank you, CARA, and happy birthday.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to wish CARA a happy birthday on a successful years. And I also wanted to say that how much I appreciate being a part of CARA, because CARA has done great things for this community. And they have also been a servant to so many other partners they have worked with. And I wanted to say we should continue to work as hard as we can to keep CARA alive. And that's the most important thing. Keep it going. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jo Carson, and I'm the co-chair along with Nan Brazier of the Central Valley CAT. I live in Stockton. I'm on the CARA board as a representative of the California Teachers Association and CTA retired. I also on the legislative team, very active committee, and I enjoy CARA because we're hands-on with what the legislature is doing for seniors and the disabled. I think what we do is very important, and if you, no matter what age you are, you should try to participate in CARA activities. You're going to need your Social Security and Medicare.
My name is Joe Chacon. I live in Bellflower, California. I'm an affiliate of CARA. I belong to the California State Retirees. In fact, the person who, my chapter president of the California State Retirees, used to come to the CARA meetings, and she told me about the CARA, so I started coming. I basically like the CARA because they keep informed. They have a lot of different forums on issues that relate to me. I like the lobby. I like the lobby days you have. And the one event that I liked when we went to go to Bakersfield to visit Kevin McCarthy's office in Bakersfield.
Happy 20th, Cara. You've accomplished so much and have so much more to do. I'm Larry Murata, proud member of the Foothill Community Democrats. And about 4 years ago, I happened upon a local CARA CAT meeting and was welcomed by leaders Lorenzo Rios and Sharon Nakamoto. The group was so dynamic and sincere in their interest to improve the quality of life, not only for retired seniors, but for people in need everywhere. Every person in that room had a long and distinguished history of public service in a diversity of fields. That's when I knew CARA was for me, and I'll bet it's for you. I've learned so much from CARA's fabulous Friday forums, from presentations, from speakers at every meeting, and most importantly, from each and every member I speak with. So come celebrate CARA's 20th milestone anniversary and become a member today.
Hi, my name is Tish Leon. I'm a member of the East County Democratic Club in San Diego and have been a member of CARA for 5 years. I got involved with CARA back in 2018 when I met Susan Meyer at the San Diego Democratic Convention. She was looking for people to volunteer to become senior ambassadors. And I thought, well, that's something that I could do. And so, as they say, the rest is history. I was the convener in Orange County, and then I moved to San Diego, and now I am co-convener for the San Diego CAT and a VP on the board. I really love being part of CARA. This is an organization that is action-driven and believes in holding our representatives accountable. Like the time that we took a bus drive up to Bakersfield to Speaker McCarthy's office to tell him to keep his hands off of our Social Security. That was a great trip. I appreciate everything that CARA does, and especially looking out for older adults in California and making sure that our Social Security and our Medicare is not taken away from us. I truly wish CARA a very happy 20th anniversary and many more years to continue advocating for seniors. If you are not involved or part of CARA, I really wish that you would. This is a great organization. We are just so
Yes, tell you that our speakers that we have been waiting for are here. So, let's start with Katie Porter. All right, we don't have a whiteboard up here, but maybe she has one over there. Katie Porter, thank you. Okay, well,
Using the cats, I didn't know.
hello. Uh-oh, she can't, she's on mute. Let's see what we can do. Okay. But she knows.
Okay, there we are, everybody. Can everyone put on mute so they can hear me? All right, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry for the quick delay. I was waiting to get unmuted. It's so wonderful to be here with you all today. For those of you who I don't know, I just want to briefly introduce myself. The San Francisco Chronicle once called me Congress's watchdog and single mom. And both of those things are true. I live in Irvine, where I am raising 3 lightly supervised children. And the second part about being a watchdog is also true. I really, really love oversight. I drive a minivan that has the California license plate that spells it out, OVRSITE. And so believe me, when you have oversight for your license plate, you come to a complete stop. at every stop sign. I wanted to talk with you briefly today about one of the most important duties of the House of Representatives generally. I know people think about the House, they think about bills being passed or, as it's been lately, not getting passed. But oversight is a really important duty of Congress, of the House and the Senate. It is about being a watchdog for families, for our budgets, for our tax dollars, for our retirement savings, for our health care. And I often say the purpose of oversight is to really close that gap between what the law says and what the law does. So the promise of Medicare is that older adults can get the health care they need without going bankrupt or into crushing debt. Traditional Medicare delivers the highest quality of care with the most choice and the lowest cost. But that Medicare program and its long-standing successes have been threatened by programs like direct contracting and into the hands of equity firms with no healthcare experience. And so the rise of Medicare Advantage plans have taken private insurers' greed and abuse and imported them into Medicare, hurting both taxpayers and seniors. And I've seen of cancer called hairy cell leukemia. As he sought treatment for his cancer, he was by who had experience treating this rare disease. His doctor did his best. He called the specialist for help just 2 hours away, but my dad couldn't see that doctor because he had the disadvantage of having so-called Medicare Advantage. We see it in the commercial. I don't think we should take their word for it. So I've introduced legislation to force insurers to give policymakers and patients data on the coverage, on the claims, and the denials. And we need to be looking at the tax expenses of Medicare Advantage too. If Medicare Advantage is as good as those infomercials say it is, let's see the numbers. Let's do the oversight to see whether the promise of Medicare is being fulfilled. Another commitment that we make to Americans is to Social Security, that it will be there for them when they retire, and that it will be the only member of the House of Representatives to ever receive the Social Security Champion Award from Social Security Works. And it's because of that government is keeping its promises to seniors. I am a proud sponsor of the Social Security 2100 Act and remain incredibly frustrated that both Democrats and Republicans, regardless of which party is in charge, have refused to put the Social Security Act 2100 on the House floor for a vote. It's not enough to just say you're a sponsor. You need to be pushing for an actual vote. So when I'm conducting oversight, I'm looking for whether government is making a real difference in people's lives. That means exposing areas where we're not getting the job done, but it also means building on successes of programs that are working. So for example, Medicare should cover vision, hearing, and dental. It should be able to negotiate the prices for all drugs, not just 10 a year. And it should be available to all Americans, because it is the best health care and the best patient network of any kind of health program that we have. Regarding Social Security, the so-called WEP GPO penalty that harms public servants. We should strengthen the cost of living adjustment. We should correct the disability benefit cliff. And to do this, we just need to make wealthiest Americans pay their fair share to scrap the cap. The Social Security 2100 Act that will let us avoid a projected drop in benefits. But instead of having those conversations, instead of squarely taking on those fights, Washington politicians are still fighting the same fights that they have been fighting for decades. We are still fighting to avoid efforts to privatize Medicare, like I talked about, through direct contracting, on Medicare Advantage. We still have Republicans in Congress continuing to propose cuts to Social Security. These are not debates that we should be having in the 21st century. We now are approaching 100 years of evidence that Social Security delivers for seniors. And the only question ought to be, how do we strengthen it? Not just how do we protect it, but how do we make it stronger? The reason why so much of our political discourse is like a bad version of Groundhog Day, again and again having the same conversations, is because of the dominance of special interests that drown out what our families and our seniors need. I am the only congressperson in this race who has never taken corporate PAC money, not one dime. And I didn't change my position on campaign finance to boost my credibility in this Senate race. It is core to who I am and why I do this job differently. Corporate PAC money corrupts Washington. It corrupts decisions and it corrupts outcomes for everyday Americans like you. I'm the same with federal lobbyist money. I don't take it and I don't want it. And I'm the only person in this race who can say that. Federal lobbyist money is bad for politicians, bad for democracy, and again, bad for Californians. I am not a creature of institutional Washington. I haven't been in office for decades. I don't do Congress like others do because I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to call out congressional leadership or corporate executives who let us down. This is California's opportunity to send a warrior to the US Senate who's going to shake up the system and make sure that we are putting in place building blocks for not just our today's seniors to be successful and to thrive, but for retirees and seniors in today's workforce in decades ahead to do even better than we have been able to do. I hope you'll pick the right woman to be your next US Senator. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, Katie. Katie, do you have time for a few questions and answers to answer a few questions? Katie,
I should, yes.
You want to ask Congresswoman any questions? This is your opportunity. All those out in Zoom land, if you just raise your hand and we will call on you. Okay, we do have a question. Yes, the man with the Act Now hat on.
Why is it that you do not vote in favor of earmarks? Because earmarks are a way that your state can be held.
The question is, why don't you vote for earmarks when
And some earmarks to help Californians to help other states when you vote for those.
when earmarks could help those in California and in other states? Earmarks.
Okay, great. So earmarks are, let me make sure everyone knows what an earmark is. An earmark is a deviation from the normal government funding process. Normally, what we do is we look at what Americans need, say they need additional funding for Medicare senior patrol to prevent fraud in Medicare, and we allot money for that, and then the administration decides where that money needs to go. Earmarks change that process, fund politicians' ugly history of corruption with regard to earmarks. And the process inherently invites favoritism and corruption. And it replaces the judgment of experts or expert federal workers with the judgment of politicians who are trying to do paybacks and political favors. So I will always fight for California to get its fair share of funding. And I can give you some examples of how I have done that, advocating for infrastructure projects like the billions of dollars we brought home for Irvine Ranch Water District to be able to build a huge water recycling center, groundwater storage facility, the way I fought to reverse the punitive funding formula that first about earmarks. We have a Southern California member who went to jail, prison for having a menu of earmarks. If you donated this much, then you got an earmark for that. And it's not just the past. We have a member who funneled earmarks to the nonprofit where his wife works. We have a problem with trust in government. We need to restore it, and we're going to do that by having transparent processes. The last thing I want to flag is the research is crystal clear. Earmarks discriminate against the lowest income and most needy Americans. The money does not flow where it is needed.
Because we are
Authority and political clout. And so I want to make sure that that money is going where we most need it.
we're the
California to get its fair share, but I don't think politicians ought to be trading political favors to decide which bridges are safe and which nonprofits have resources to help people.
Thank you very much. And we have a question from Zoom. Pam Rood, would you ask your question, please?
Certainly. Thank you so much for being here, Katie. And I've always appreciated your stances on the negative impact of the privatization of Medicare and healthcare in general. I think you referred to a bill having to do with Social Security, and I missed what the number was. And could you tell me more specifically what it addresses?
Sorry, Pamela, you froze for just a second. Can you repeat the last part of
it? Sure. I'd like to know what the bill was you referred to on Social Security, the number, yes, and what it addresses.
Yeah. Thank you. Year 2100 if we were to pass the bill. It is sponsored by my colleague John Larson from Connecticut, and what it would do is scrap cap on having to pay into Social Security. So right now, if you earn $1 million a year, you don't have to pay into Social Security on that full $1 million. There's essentially a benefit to billionaires and millionaires. And what we can do if we scrap that cap is be able to fund Social Security for years going forward. The bill would also put in place a different cost of living adjustment for Social Security. It would put in place a special cost of living that is designed for seniors. It's called COLA E standing here for elderly. What it does is weigh more heavily changes in costs that affect seniors. So for example, it has a greater weight toward when medicine costs are going up, when healthcare costs are going up, because seniors spend more of their income on these things than, for example, younger families who have to spend more of their income on childcare. So it would provide a better, more consistent cost of living adjustment for seniors, and it would allow us to fully fund Social Security until the year 2100 and beyond. Here's the most important thing I want you to understand about this bill, Pamela. There are 200 Democrats on this bill. And yet, when Democrats were in charge of Congress, we didn't put it on the floor for a vote. So too many people in Washington want to get your votes by telling you they're a sponsor of this bill, but they're not willing to vote for it on the floor of stand up to their millionaire and billionaire donors. That is not how I do business.
Thank you.
Willing to go to the House floor and vote for it.
Thank you for that. I just want to give you something that came up from Social Security Works. We work with them. They are trying to protect Social Security. And the alert is the new speaker just demanded an immediate commission to destroy Social Security and Medicare. Now, you got to know something about what a commission is. The commission comes up with what they're going to do, and it passes. There is no give and take on those commissions. So, thank you for your answer to that last question. you understand us, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you all so much. I need to jump, but I'm so excited to have had a chance to talk with you today and really appreciate all of your ongoing work and advocacy and your partnership. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi there. All right. We are on our last speaker, and that is a woman that I know well, Barbara Lee, and she should be ready to go on now. Okay? Barbara Lee, everybody.
So thank you everyone for your patience bringing this in through Zoom land. Technology is always we gotta be a little flexible, thank you for doing that. So we're talking right now with the Barbara Lee Camp and other staff of Barbara Lee with us shortly. Thank you so much for bearing with us. Someone singing a song? You know, all in all, this is working out pretty good because those Congress members are in Washington right now. And they've been attending a hearing, and so they are in session and they are working. So that's why we're having difficulty getting them in today. We had it all set up, but sure enough, the hearing is taking longer than anticipated. So we're just gonna do the best that we can. We're talking with Barbara Lee's staff right now, all right?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, Barbara. Barbara, everyone can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, we're in the middle of everything. But okay, so you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Well, let me thank you for inviting all of us to be with you today. And I'm so sorry, but you know what we're caught up in here in Washington, D.C. And just want to thank you for staying the course. Also, I'm reminded way back in 2005, I worked with you to take the pledge to protect Social Security in a town hall meeting. This was in Oakland. And so just know that I am here fighting to make sure that this new speaker, and I know this commission that he's talking about, but we're not going to let that happen. We're going to fight and push back and make sure that, because we do know once the commission is established. Okay, yeah. Okay, keep me unmuted. Can you keep me unmuted? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, couple of things. First of all, let me just be very clear in terms of where I stand on many of the issues that we all care about. First on Social Security. I know, and you know, you can't live in dignity when you're trying to survive on $14,000 a year in Social Security benefits. And so, you know, I have some bad news for our Republican new speaker and our Republican colleagues, because right now, and if you support me in my campaign for the United States Senate, I'm going to fight to expand Social Security and not allow them to cut Social Security. We're going to make sure that women and people of color get their fair share by making sure that they get equal pay on the front end. Because when you earn less, your check looks a whole lot smaller. Despite Republican attacks on Social Security, we're still talking about the most successful government program in our nation's history. These are earned benefits. Through good times and bad times, Social Security has paid every nickel owed to every eligible American on time and without delay. So I was so proud to sign CARA's pledge. This was again in 2005 to protect Social Security. And believe me, I've been fighting tooth and nail every day since. And I know what my marching orders are. We cannot cut Social Security, and we cannot raise the retirement age, because every single American has a right to a secure retirement and the opportunity to age in place in the community. And let me just say, you know, my mother worked for Social Security Administration for years. And in fact, I don't know what she would have done had she not had her retirement from Social Security. She passed away at 90 years old. My aunt is 102 years old currently. And believe you me, personally, I know what Social Security and Medicare provide in your golden years. We need to pass the Social Security Expansion Act, which would keep the Social Security Trust Fund solvent for 75 years by lifting the payroll cap. And that also includes capital gains and dividends for people making more than $350,000 a year. And that's very important, because it's also really important to remind people that 95% of Americans wouldn't see their taxes go up 1 penny, not 1 penny. And so we've got to work to pass this bill, and we need to do it quickly. Secondly, let me just mention pensions. Half of older Americans have no retirement savings and no idea how they will ever be able to retire with any shred of dignity. So I was very proud to support President Biden's efforts to ensure that 3 million workers' pension plans remain solvent and pay full benefits through at least 2051. But to be honest, that is not enough. In my mind, we need to expand defined benefit pension plans in America, which sadly are an endangered species in our country. Instead of asking retirees to take a massive cut in their pension benefits, of course, when I'm senator, we will make multi-employer plans solvent by closing all these horrible loopholes that allow the wealthiest Americans in this country to avoid paying their fair share of taxes. If Congress could provide a multi-trillion bailout to Wall Street and foreign banks in 2008, we can and we must protect the pensions that were promised to millions of Americans. Third, let me just address the outrageous state of our healthcare system. Let's take stock of where we are. 55% of senior citizens are trying to survive on an income of less than $25,000 a year. $25,000 a year. In California, that's not even an income that barely meets survival requirements and needs. And senior citizens deserve not only to survive, but to thrive. Nearly 1 in 4 Americans can't afford the medicine their doctors prescribe. And because Medicare doesn't cover, and this is really important that I've worked with Senator Sanders on, doesn't cover dental, hearing, or vision. There are millions of lower income seniors who don't have teeth because they can't afford dental care. That is really absurd in the wealthiest and the most powerful country in the world. So of course, when I'm in the Senate, my plan is to add dental and vision coverage to Medicare, and I'm going to fight with Senator Sanders to get this done. I'm the only person in this race who signed on to the very first Medicare for All bill in Congress. It took one of my colleagues' representativeship more than a decade to get on board, but I try to do what's right, not what's popular, because I know to my core that in America, your health should not be dependent on your wealth. Healthcare is a human right that all Americans, regardless of income, are entitled to, and they deserve the best healthcare that our country can provide. The last thing, and let me address this because housing is so important, especially for us in California. Nearly half of our renters face the greatest housing shortage are seniors. Seniors. Nearly half of single adults living on our streets are over the age of 50. And 41% of those older senior Californians have never been homeless, not one day in their lives before the age of 50. That is really a shame and disgrace. It's time for the federal government to get involved in California's housing and homelessness crisis. And I'm very proud to have introduced the Renters Bill of Rights, which would make a $70 billion investment in public housing and a $45 billion investment in the construction of affordable housing and a $180 billion investment in rental assistance to help people stay housed. Also, I'm a proud co-sponsor of the Housing for All Act, which would address our housing crisis by investing in housing choice vouchers, project-based rental assistance, and street outreach. So I intend to, once I'm elected to the Senate, fully fund the Section 8 rental assistance program. And yes, we have to establish a national rent control standard. And also we must drive funding to the McKinney-Vento homelessness assistance grants to build permanent supportive housing specifically for seniors. So when I talk about the conditions facing people in this state, I'm not just talking about wages and income. I'm talking about whether people can access the basic necessities of life, a secure retirement, being able to see a doctor, having a roof over your head. And believe you me, my friends, these are not radical ideas. You better believe that when I'm in the Senate, I expect to be hearing from you as I hear from you now. And I want you as my partners as we drive forward an agenda that creates a country that we can all be proud of. And so I want to thank you again for having us here today, but also for staying vigilant and for making sure that we know exactly how to stay on point on behalf of our senior citizens as it relates to your economic security. And just know that I intend to continue to fight to make sure that these people do not privatize Social Security. And we need to expand Medicare, and we need to make sure that the economic security of our retired citizens are truly secure. Thank you again.
Barbara Lee, do you have time for a couple of questions?
Sure. Yeah, right now, just waiting for the bells to ring for votes, but yeah, I'm fine.
So anybody out here on the floor, yes, your hand is raised.
I realize this is not social, it's not Social Security, but I am very concerned about our environment and the survival of human beings and the quality of our life.
We have a question about our environment and the survival of human beings.
Well, I'm very glad you asked that question because the climate crisis is an emergency. And, young people, in my campaign, I have the endorsement of Gen Z for Change. And Gen Z for Change and our young people, their top priority issue is climate change because they see a world in which they don't exist because of the heating of the climate. And so we have to see climate change and global climate initiatives in a context also of healthcare. I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas. We were in a Black and brown community near a smelter. It emitted lead through the smokestacks. People in my neighborhood early on, bronchitis, COPD, serious lung diseases. And this was all because of the unjust nature of these corporations siting that smelter in our neighborhoods. And so the health impacts of climate change are real. I am an early supporter of the Green New Deal. I'm the co-sponsor of Congressman Grijalva's, his Donald McKeachum Environmental Justice Act for All, because we have to see the planet in the total context of its impact on healthcare, on seniors, and on vulnerable communities, and make sure that environmental justice is part of our climate policy. Finally, I'll just say, when we were in the majority, I was chair of the committee on appropriation that funds our investments in climate change globally, all over the world. And I was really proud of the fact that I went to COP27 in Egypt, and the rest of the world knows that fossil fuels and what the West has done in terms of polluting their environment and wreaking havoc on their lands that we have a responsibility to help repair the damage. And so we invested in the Green Climate Fund billions of dollars under my leadership. And I'm going to continue to fight for more because this planet is very small. What affects one here, what affects one abroad affects us all. So thank you for that question. But just know that the climate crisis, it should be declared an emergency. I've asked the president to declare it an emergency, and this is a big issue for me in my campaign.
Okay, from Zoom, we have a question from Cindy Soto. Cindy Soto. Please come in on Zoom.
I'm sorry, I did that by mistake. Thank you.
All right, then the next person we have in Zoom is Heidi Mayer. Heidi Mayer, please come on Zoom.
Yeah, hi. I just had a question because California is so expensive to live in, why the amount for like SSDI is the same as anywhere else in the United States. Is there any way that might be adjusted in the future?
Yeah, that's a formula that we have to go back to the drawing board on. It's a formula that does not take into consideration the cost of living in different regions. And so I think we need to do that. I don't believe there's anything pending now. And correct me if I'm wrong, if there's legislation, but I think that we need to look at how we fix that, because the cost of living in California, coupled with inflation, coupled with retirement security, wages, retirement benefits, it's not acceptable in California. It's hard to live month to month. And I know that because I know in many respects, when I was on public assistance, raising my two little boys on food stamps and Medi-Cal, I know what it's like to live month to month, not knowing when your next meal is, where your next meal is coming from. And so it's unfortunate and it's immoral that seniors have to worry about that in California. So I think we need to try to fix that formula, and I would like to do that.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question. Is a gentleman with the hat on. You had your hand raised for.
I don't have a question.
No, just is for questions only, not statements, just a question. Yes, ma'am.
Barbara Lee and George
This is a time for questions. No.
I want to ask Barbara a question.
Please ask the question.
Okay. Barbara Lee and George Miller introduced a resolution for a national Ed Roberts Day. Ed Roberts was.
Who Ed Roberts was, and this is.
I knew Ed Roberts well. Yeah, I knew Ed Roberts well when I worked for Ron Dellum.
The vote before Congress was 486 to 8, and it should be reintroduced through the Senate. And would Barbara Lee carry that?
The answer is yes. I knew Ed Roberts, and I'm very proud to have been part of the funding. Again, you talk about earmarks and federally directed resources. I was really proud to be able to direct money for the construction of the Ed Roberts campus in my own district right now. So I would love to do that. Mm-hmm.
That is it for the questions. And thank you so much, Barbara Lee. Go back inside and vote the way we want.
Thank you so much. Really happy to be with you. Look forward to seeing you soon. Okay, take care.
By the way, I just want to go over two things that did come up with people outside and people who came up to the table. One person was talking about the Social Security and the ACO REACH, etc. All three of these candidates agree with CARA, are working with CARA to make sure that Social Security is not privatized. And I think that's very important. Somebody else came up and asked about WEC GPO. And you know that in like 15 states, if people work in, let's say, in the regular working and weren't teachers and then decided to become teachers, they would lose most of their Social Security. The same thing for government people. And so all of these people have backed everything to stop this and to stop the wet GPO in all of our states. And California is one of them. So thank you.
What is GPO, please?
What is that? Government pension.
Thank you.
Government pension. I can never get that. Oh, offset.
Okay, we're gonna go back into session. You know what? Please. We still got a lot of business and a lot of good stuff to take care of. Okay, take it away. Okay, let's go back into session. Hello. Recess is over. Hello. So there's a couple of,
Hey, guys.
a couple of things that I need to announce. Number one, just so you know, this building is not even, I don't think it's a year old. But it's got, this room has every bit of technology that you can have. So it is picking up some of your side conversations. So, no, they're not recording them, Michelle. Let's not start unnecessary trouble. However, especially for the folks that are on Zoom, they're getting the feedback. So we're going to ask you to kind of consider that with your table talk, okay? Yeah, they're on Zoom, they're hearing, oh, and Zoom. So they're not hearing it. So please, let's, we were not aware of that, but we've been informed. So earlier, part of the program, when we introduced our staff, we started off with some of our former staff. They weren't here, but they are all here now. So we are going to start with, so Southern California, we're going to start with Rich News. And so, as I said earlier, he's been around the world and back, and now in Seattle, and got a wife. So we'll end up with a bunch of godparents from CARA. And Miss Jenny, who also Southern California. You know what I'm starting to feel? You know, these people from Southern California come join us and do us and move on to bigger, better things. So we're like a college for them. Alumni. Right. This is our alumni, and we see you and welcome you that you're here. Also, and going back away, Janet. Janet Canterbury, also Southern Cal, who's a major part of us that have been here for a while. And it's just wonderful to see you. But you know, we grow up and we learn and we have our base and we have our foundations, and these people are all part of that foundation. So we're just so happy they're here to celebrate the 20th anniversary. And you guys, yeah, the city's been named earlier. I think there were a couple of folks who thought that they were gonna be Vishnu's bride. So we're just so happy you guys are here. You're gonna hang with us today and you're gonna party with us tonight. So, yeah. We work hard, but we party hard too, trust me, we do. So, okay, so now we're gonna try to get back to the program. I don't even know if I know where I was, okay. I think my next person is one. Right? No. Okay, I vote on priority issues. Okay. All right, so some, in your program, it shows at 2 o'clock, we're gonna have a vote on priority issues. And it's in your program, I'm being told. So actually, I think Dwane's gonna do this part.
It's on the paper inside. You can find it and you can. Blue.
Okay. Okay, guys, all right, Jody is gonna do this part. And we all know that Jody can't speak, so shush.
Hopefully you can hear me. Well, I scratch your voice. So the priority. Your questions, or you can't hear. I can't go first. Vocal cords. So fortunately for you, I'm not doing much speaking. So if you take out your blue ballot, if you're in person, we're gonna vote on the issues you want us to prioritize next year. For those of you on Zoom, our Zoom followers, we're gonna launch this on Zoom. So if you're on Zoom, you can vote right on the computer. If you can't do that, everybody who registered for Zoom also received these materials. So if you are on Zoom and you want to write your answer, your choices on the actual paper, do that and you're going to send it to us. And the post office box is on the paper. So if you're in the room, leave these papers when you leave today, along with the evaluation that's also in your paper. All right? And this will make up our focus for next year. Now, notice that Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, improving and protecting it, it's not on there. Either single payer healthcare, not on there. That's because every time we do this, those two win the top two. So we just assume until we achieve those things, we're gonna keep working on them. So we want to know what else you'd like to focus on. So don't think we're not gonna work on those issues, of course. They are eternal until we win. But these other ones have taken different, some have risen to the top some years, and other years they're a little lower. So your input is what helps us decide what we want to focus on next year. Like last year, the top vote, Social Security, Medicare, and single payer, which was already there, was climate. And as you know, we sponsored a climate bill and we got it signed this year. So what you choose helps us figure out where we put our resources. So we'll give everybody a chance, a couple minutes to fill out your ballot. You can only vote for two. Your top two. If you vote for more, your ballot is disqualified. So don't check every box, even though you might want to. All right. All right. So we're going to take a couple minutes to let everybody vote.
Okay, I think you all understood. Please fill them out. It is important for our work for us to know what you want us to work on. I think someone mentioned that climate was, and if there's other things you feel that I see you, honey, just give me a minute, okay? If there are other things, then you know, you're welcome to write them on the back or whatever. Okay, so you have a question here.
So my question is, if we have two on the ones that are listed, would an other be count as the second one, or could we do a third one as other? On the very bottom.
Voting for more than two will disqualify yourself.
So is other counted as number two? Yes, other is counted. You got something.
Simple.
Yes. Yes.
Really too.
Your blue sheets, after you complete them, please, you can leave them on the tables and they will be collected. Okay, that rather than everybody trying to hand them in, so just know that we will collect them. Okay. Okay, we're gonna give you a few more minutes to work on that. Okay, a couple more minutes and we're gonna go into the next session, please. So I'll need you to kind of quiet down a little. Thank you. So now to our fabulous program. I'm to introduce to you who I commented on early, Dwane Camp Jr., CARA's legislative and political director. Dwane will give a brief overview of CARA's senior vote program and introduce our terrific panel of organizations that CARA is proud to work with and hopes to build our collaboration to elect candidates running for office in California who will work to educate and to engage voters to elect candidates who will fight for seniors, people with disabilities, people of color, and our working families. So at this point, I give to you, Dwane Camp Jr. Thank you.
All right, can everybody hear me okay in the room on Zoom?
Yeah.
We all right? Okay. Well, thank you for that incredibly warm introduction. And before, I feel so privileged, one, not only to see so many of you for the very first time in person after 2 years of conducting incredible work in the legislature, supporting congressional bills, all the wonderful budget advocacy we've done over Zoom these past few years. It's so great to reconnect and see you all in person. For those of you who are here in the room, and for those of you who are on Zoom, thank you so much, because we have had an incredible year, a perfect way to celebrate 20 years of this incredible organization, dare I say, an institution in California now. So before I introduce our distinguished panelists, and we are very lucky to have Bryan Blum and Irene, as well as Jane Kim will be joining us on Zoom. Karla Zombro will be joining us on Zoom, and Mr. Rich Fiesta, who I just saw a second ago. Oh, there he is. No, you're all good. We are so excited to be joined by this distinguished panel to talk about the tremendous work that they are doing individually and we collectively to ensure that we are taking all the steps necessary to protect and preserve our democracy yet again, because we certainly did so in 2022. And I'll take just a quick moment to recap that effort. So Cindy, if you wouldn't mind sharing my screen so folks on Zoom can see the graphic that we produced. But we've heard all morning from both on Zoom and in person about sort of the recommitment to CARA's foundational principles, right? To ensure that every California family has the resources to age with dignity and independence if they so choose, right? But in order to do that, we need policymakers, we need elected officials who are committed to these ideals, who will deliver on the promises and who will meet the urgency of the impending crises that we are all facing right now, right? So in 2022, thanks to our executive board and many of you in the room and on Zoom, we initiated this incredible voter education campaign. And again, voter education campaign, because at CARA we do not endorse candidates for elected office. But thanks to many of you who were called senior vote ambassadors, we recruited, I think, close to 250 volunteers who wrote postcards, who made phone calls, who helped organize our candidate forums statewide, because you know we have several CARA action teams. We wanted to utilize all of these tools to engage NPP or no party preference senior voters in 5 critical congressional races in 2022. And the results were overwhelming. As you can see, thanks to, again, the hard work of those of you in the room and on Zoom, and those of you who aren't able to join us today, we made over 20,000 phone calls to senior voters across the state of California. And please feel free to applaud yourselves. I'm just recapping all the work that you all did. We made over 20,000 phone calls. We wrote over 25,000 postcards, again, to senior voters across California. And on top of that, we leafleted, we participated in just about every public forum available to us leading up to the midterm elections, and really engaged the public at every opportunity we could to present the facts on the candidates running for this office. We just reaffirmed our position to protect and expand Social Security and Medicare. That was an issue that we presented to the voters across those 5 congressional districts, and you can see them listed up there, all the way from Placer County, which, by the way, was not an initial senior vote target, but thanks to the leadership of the one, I'm looking at you right here, Diana Medoshi right in the middle over here, and the Placer Cat, they took it upon themselves to build out a senior vote campaign, and they did a phenomenal job, and we really appreciate all the work that they've done. And so now, before I get to our speakers, the last thing I want to talk about is the candidate forums, right? So every candidate who participated in our candidate forums in 2022, they answered our questionnaire where we talked about ACO REACH, where we talked about Social Security, where we talked about climate change, we talked about transforming our healthcare systems, right, and so on and so forth. And then we took that information and put it into a flyer, right, along with CARA's position on the ballot initiative, and we sent those out. That was a part of our leafleting, that was a part of our postcard campaign, and it made a difference. So again, we know, unfortunately, that seniors, again, one of the most consistent voting bases in history of this great democracy, we need to activate this group again and do even more. So the goals, well, I shouldn't say the goals, what we achieved in 2022, we need to expand on next year, right? Because it's gonna come down to us. Those of us in the room, those of us on Zoom, CARA, our partners, our incredible leadership, it's gonna come down to us and California to restore normalcy to our governing institutions. So with that happy note, it is my pleasure to introduce Bryan Blum from the California Labor Federation, who is going to talk to us about the great work they are doing ahead of the 2024 election. Bryan, welcome.
Thank you, Dwane, and thank you all for having me here today. It's been, sort of a real honor and.
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
It is. It's been a, Zach, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Better.
It is, it's been a real honor and privilege to work with CARA through the years, going back, at least a decade, and sort of some real high points in 2018, partnering with CARA to help take back 7 congressional seats in California, really making a difference. CARA has made a difference in a lot of these races, again, in a nonpartisan way, in an educational way, but the work that CARA has done has been tremendous. And to see the activism here, the turnout here today, and I was also on the Zoom earlier, and see the turnout on Zoom just is really a testament to the membership and the leadership, how CARA has grown and stayed vibrant. So thank you for having me. I represent the California Labor Federation. We're the umbrella organization for labor in California, represent 1,200 affiliate unions around California, about 2.5 million union members represented by us. And one of our key work is making sure that the interests of working people are paid attention to and addressed by our elected officials, whether that's in Congress, whether that's in California, in our constitutional officers, or in the legislature. Our core work is making sure that we grow the labor movement, that we help unions and workers that are in contract disputes and strikes, but that we also do things that advance the causes for all working people. When we raise the floor for all working people, that helps all of us. So that's our perspective from the California Labor Federation of what our mandate is. And in the political program, I'm the political director. What that means is electing and holding accountable elected officials to further that goal, to making sure that we have a just economy that works for all, and also that we create conditions that can grow the labor movement and support our brothers and sisters in the movement. I'm going to start with our priorities looking at 2024. You heard our leader, Lorena Gonzalez, earlier this morning talk about it a little bit. We'll go into just a little bit more detail, but a big priority for us is going to be the congressional races. It always is, but I will say it's probably more of a focus for us than any time since 2018. That was the last time we took back the House from the anti-worker Republican majority. And if anything, sort of the dysfunction that we've seen in the House of Representatives the last couple of weeks, and then also with what happened today, the Republicans elected a speaker who is even further right than Kevin McCarthy, really extreme Donald Trump embraced speaker from Louisiana. He was one of the 8 House Republicans who defended Trump in the impeachment trial. Trump has already tweeted about how he's going to be a great speaker. So, you know, this outcome somehow the House of Representatives gone even further to the right with the actions today. Just highlights the need to take back the House in 2024. And, you know, you raised some of the, in Dwane's presentation, some of the work that CARA and we also shared some of those priorities in the congressional races in 2024. We came up short in a couple of those. That's why those are still on the list. But in 2022, in one of the lower turnout elections in California in the last couple of years, we came really close in a couple of these races. In Congressional District 13, we lost that by a couple hundred votes. Also, in Congressional District 22 down in the Central Valley, also lost that by a very narrow margin. And we know that in a presidential year, turnout on the natural is going to be much greater. So we think we have a much better opportunity to flip these seats. But it's going to take all of our work to make that happen. When I say there's going to be better turnout, we can't take anything for granted. Of course, no one in this room is going to take it for granted. We're going to do all the work to bring that about. And, you know, it's our responsibility. California has a responsibility to lead the nation. We have a responsibility not just to do our part, but to be leaders. And that means to take back the House. The margins are relatively narrow, but you cannot see a path nationally taking back the House unless we take back a net of at least 2 or 3 of these seats here in California. The more the better. But if California doesn't accomplish this, we're probably not going to take back the House nationally. So no pressure. The fate of democracy is in our hands over the next 13 months. And, you know, I joke a little bit, but you know, it's kind of true. It's kind of true. Particularly since, you know, we're going to do our part, of course, to hold on to the presidency, but a lot of that's going to be out of our control in California. California's going to vote for Biden, and I'm sure we'll do activist work for other states. But what we can control for sure is taking back the House of Representatives. And so a couple of those races, we agree, those will be the priorities again. I will officially say we haven't done any endorsements yet. We will do our endorsements at our convention in December, but I can say pretty assuredly that Congressional District 13, defeating John Duarte, is going to be a priority. Yeah, absolutely, he's got to go. That's the sort of the northern part of the Central Valley. Stanislaus Merced goes down to a little part of Fresno as well. Then defeating David Valadeo in Kern and Kings and Tulare. A huge priority. That's someone we battled with and tussled with for several cycles. We beat him in 2018. So he wins sometimes, we win sometimes. We're gonna win in 2024, but we got to do the work. Then in Los Angeles, in the northern part of the county, sort of the Santa Clarita and Antelope Valley, Mike Garcia, and it always pains me to say that name because there was a great labor leader, Mike Garcia, who came out of SEIU, and to have his name besmirched by this Republican clown always pains me to say that name. But Mike Garcia is a target for us down in that northern part of LA County. So those for sure, I think those are sort of by the numbers and nationally agreed. Those are the most right targets. We're also, of course, going to be looking at other places we can expand out and have other potentials. Congressional District 3, Jessica Bork will probably be a great candidate there. Potentially, we'll keep our eye on that one. You know, defeating Ken Calvert down in the Inland Empire, that potentially is another one to look at, and we'll see about other opportunities as they arise. But I also talked about we have to have a net pickup of 2 or 3. So that means we have to win seats, but we also can't go backwards. We have to hold on to the seats we currently have. And down in Orange County, Kate Porter had a tough re-election race last time. That's a tough district. She's running for the Senate now, so that's an open seat, which makes it even a little tougher. So we have to make sure we hold on to that seat in Orange County. Also have to make sure we hold on to any other potential seats of Democrats, Labor Democrats that might get this right, whether it's, you know, Mike Levin or Josh Carter. Hopefully they won't be, but we also just have to keep our eyes on that so that, you know, as we're out there flipping seats, we also don't take a step back and lose seats. So we have to have a net pickup of these seats. So I think that really is our mandate, our biggest challenge. Looking into 2024, we are, of course, you know, I talked about other races, legislative races. We, of course, will be active in those and make endorsements in those. Some of those will be in areas that overlap with some of these congressional districts, so that'll be good. But really just wanted to lay down the marker, and I know you're with us and have been in the past, looking at these congressional seats and making sure California does its part to take back the majority. We're going to do it at the Labor Fed. We are going to do outreach to our union members. In each congressional district, there's about 70 to 90,000 union voters, and you know that's a priority for us to take back those seats by moving our members. But we also want to support and partner with allies that are doing programs, reaching out to the general public, educating the general public as the CARA program will do as well. So I know what you all have done. I know you're going to do it with even more energy and enthusiasm. As I look at this room in the future, CARA continues to grow. So tremendous job by you in the past, only a bright future. We look forward with partnering with you and taking back the People's House in 2024. Thank you.
So Bryan has to get back to a meeting, but we can take 2 questions. So we'll take a question from Zoom and a question from here. Okay, I saw a hand come up right here. Tish, come on and tell your question.
I was just curious, rarely does anybody talk about San Diego 48 Daryl Issa. So why not? Why can't you help there?
Well,
Would you please repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was, people haven't been talking much about the congressional district 48 in San Diego represented by Daryl Issa. Why not? I think that was the question. And I will say we no one deserves more to be kicked out of office than Daryl Issa. We start with that premise. And you know, and we made a run at him in his previous districts, and actually he chickened out and didn't run when he had a tough district a couple cycles ago. I would say partly it's just people looking at the numbers because he kind of shopped and found a better district after redistricting in the 48. But I do think it's a case of if we organize and can move numbers on the ground, like increase voter registration, if there is like support for the candidate running against Issa, folks will take notice of that. I think for now, it's like with people prioritizing resources, 52 congressional seats in California, you can't treat them all equally, and so people are looking at where to put the most resources. But that can be a place if there is an energy on the ground. And I do think whether it's congressional district 3 or some of these others, you know, we do the work by changing them in the off years and organizing that folks are doing. So for now, it's not on people's radar, but you know, we have the ability and part of maybe put on people's radar going forward.
We have a question from Zoom, Regina Sneed. Regina, you can unmute, come on.
Yes, hi. Well, I actually have 2 comments. One is some of us, I had to go downstairs and get my lunch. I live in a senior facility, so I evidently missed the whole priorities discussion. And in the chat, people are saying there was a difference between the paper ballot that I sent on email versus the one that was voted on in the room. So could somebody explain that? And could you also just post the results or tell us when we will get the results of the priorities? And I would like Cynthia Lopez to mute her computer because I think that's where the noise is coming from over there that we're hearing on Zoom. So if your computer mic is not muted, that would help.
All right,
Thank you.
you had a question. So could you be clear with that question, or was that just confused?
My question is, I missed whatever you had on the priorities. Evidently, I mailed in a ballot or emailed mine in I missed that discussion because I had to go downstairs to get my lunch. I live in a senior facility. So could you please either post the results of that or put something in the chat that explains how we're going to get information about what those are?
Yeah, thank you so much, Bryan.
Thank you. Okay. Well, that is part of the beauty of doing this hybrid. Not quite Hollywood, but you know, here we are in Oakland and making it happen. All right, so I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker, Irene from Courage, California. Welcome, Irene.
Good afternoon, everyone. All right, it's so nice to be here in person. I'm really excited to be here. I started at Courage, California under the pandemic, so it's sort of a really special treat to be in a room with all of you, especially because I know Courage and CARA have a long history of partnering together as well. And so just really excited to get a chance to meet you all in person. And I have a little bit of time after this panel, so happy to stick around if folks have other questions or just want to chat a little bit more. But for folks who don't know, Courage California, we've been around since about 2007. So we were founded as a multi-issue political organization statewide. But a lot of you and a lot of folks around the state know Courage a lot because we've been out big in 2008 against Prop 8. So we were pro-marriage equality, anti-Prop 8, fought that all the way through, and have continued working on LGBTQ issues as well. But really, as it comes to the election, we do the full cycle of work. So not just about elections, but about accountability, about lobbying and advocacy, and community engagement. For us, we have about 1.4 million members around the state of California and also the nation. Do I have any Courage California members with me today? Yay, okay, great. Good to see you. Definitely come and talk to me after this panel. So a couple of things I want to mention about our work. So in past cycles, we have done a lot of different kinds of work. So we have focused on voter education, so telling people about what's important on the different issues going on across the state, but also how our leaders are voting on those issues and how their votes are affecting us on those issues as well. We've also worked, again, with Bryan, the Labor Fed, CARA, other organizations as well, on turning people out to vote each election as well. So we've done direct mail, direct phone banking, texting, canvassing, and we work a lot with partners to just really make sure we're just doing all and working together to get people out to vote and make sure people are also voting.
Speak into the mic.
Yes. Yeah, we also want to make sure people vote every single election and try to vote every race and ballot measure up and down the ballot. Right, because a lot of people focus on what's at the top of the ballot in terms of the federal races, but we all know that the state races, the local races, and the local ballot measures are really the places that we see the most impact in our communities on our day-to-day lives. So a couple of things that I want to mention for 2024, we also share the same priorities as it sounds like you all have in the room, and as Bryan mentioned with the congressional clips. Again, what we've seen again in the last couple of weeks, but just also what we know about the voting records of a lot of the folks who are in power in the House. They are going after programs, Social Security, Medicare, SNAP, they're going after all these programs. And so it's a top priority for us to flip those seats. I also want to mention too, we also focus a lot on the state legislature. California is a really big leader, and that's not necessarily coming from our congressional members, it's coming from our state legislature, it's coming from our governor. Every year, I don't know if folks are familiar, we have something called Courage Score, which is we put together a report card of all of our state legislature. So you know how they voted on different bills across the different issue areas, and you get a sense of how they compare across different districts and the different legislators. I'm holding this up because every year the fun part of doing Courage Score is we issue a set of baseball cards. So all the folks who are the all-stars, the people who vote yes on all the good bills and author some of the best bills that we see in the state legislature. And we also have our Hall of Shamers, the folks who don't vote very well and are actually voting against what we know their constituents want in the district. So I brought a few sets, so please come and see me if you're interested in any of those sets. But this is part of our work, the sense of people need to know who's in office currently, what they're doing and what they're not doing for us, and making sure that when we go to the ballot, we know exactly who to vote in and who to vote out. So for 2024, we're doing a couple of things. So we're going to focus on the congressional races. We're going to focus on the state legislature. Because again, the state legislature has been really key in passing big bills that have then gone on to set the standard for the rest of the nation and other states. So we want to make sure we continue building a progressive majority in the state legislature, vote out the corporate Democrats who keep voting against us. And of course, we also want to make sure to get people out and educated about what's happening around ballot measures. Because as folks know, even if we get stuff passed by the state legislature, signed by the governor, sometimes those industries turn right back around and bring those back on the ballot to try to overturn what we wanted. In particular, I know the oil and gas step back referendum is going to be really key. So wanting to make sure we keep that in place. But also, you know, a couple other things that will be on the ballot that are top priority for Courage California. We've got ACA 1, which will lower the voting threshold that will allow local governments to pass spending bills to support more housing and infrastructure. We have ACA 8, again, calling back to our work against Prop 8. Prop 8 is still on the books in our state constitution. And so ACA 5 would allow us to strip Prop 8 out of the state constitution and make marriage equality the law of the land here in California for sure, no matter what our federal leadership looks like. We also want to make sure to lobby. There's a couple more constitutional amendments that are currently in the state legislature. I just want to mention two. ACA 4, which would restore voting rights to people who are incarcerated in prison, and ACA 8, which would end slavery here in California. We need to get those two constitutional amendments passed in the state legislature by June to get them on the November ballot. So we're going to be working on that as well. And then really quickly, a couple of things. As I mentioned, we'll launch our next Courage score in January so that folks know how your state legislators are doing this past session when you go to the ballot on March 5th. We're also going to be putting out our Courage voter guide. Our Courage voter guide, we cover 200 plus races and ballot measures. So we'll cover every single congressional race, every single state legislative race, lots of local ballot measures and local races as well. And we just use this voter guide to give people a sense of what's at stake, who's running, who's funding which candidates, and who to vote for and which ballot measures to vote for a progressive vote. We're also going to be doing a few other things that we've done with partners as well. For the last few election cycles, we've done research to find out in key congressional districts, who are the voters we're trying to reach? What are the issues they care about? Who do they plan to vote for? And what are the policies that they support so that we make sure when we're talking to voters in these congressional districts, we know how to talk to them. We're also going to be working, I think as Cara mentioned, very similarly. We also just want people to hear directly from some of the candidates. And so we'll be hosting some town halls and candidate forums as well, especially in races where there's a lot of candidates in those races and people have really tough choices to make. A couple other things, we will also focus a lot on narrative and messaging. As folks know, a lot of the state legislature, these decisions on policies, these decisions at the ballot boxes really start with how news is covering issues and how they're talking about our leaders in terms of what they're doing and what they're not doing. So we'll be focusing a lot on, again, what is it that voters want to hear about in terms of the issues? What are they not hearing from the news? And what do they need to know about the leaders and the issues that will get them to vote? And then lastly, I want to mention, we just work really closely in partnership with folks like CARA, with the California Labor Federation, and folks around the state to just turn people out to vote. As Bryan mentioned, 2024 is going to be another big election. It feels like we say this every election, but it's true. We have to choose progress and reject white supremacy and corporate interests every single election. And so 2024 is going to be another big election too. So we're really excited about that. So with that, I'll take any questions.
I have one. Yeah, I just wanted, I really appreciate using Courage campaign. I'm wondering if you might also focus some on the judicial, because so many things are going to courts now. you know, and that's some place where we're very weak with knowledge, background knowledge. So at least in general for Supreme Court and stuff like that.
So the question was about if we would focus on judicial races and what's happening in the different courts. So yes, Courage is actually part of a nationwide coalition called United for Democracy, which is focused on reforms specific to the national US Supreme Court. In the past, we have covered judicial races in the Courage voter guide, but we face the same challenge you guys face, which is there's very little information about the people who are running. So we're still figuring out how we cover those, but it's of high importance, like you said, because a lot of decisions are made or overturned in the courts.
Can you tell us where you get your funding from?
Oh, our funding. So where Courage California gets our funding, we get a mix of funding from foundations, from some labor unions. We also get a lot of funding from individual donors. So
all donors like me.
Small donor, exactly. So Courage California, all of our work, including our funding, is driven a lot by our members. And it's very similar to what you hear on the campaign trail. That's what makes it possible for us to do our work without bigger corporate or special interests influencing our work. But this is also about the heart of it, which is it's about our members. It's about the people on the ground.
I was just concerned about the gas prices and the oil thing. You mentioned that, but you didn't really talk a lot about it.
Yeah, so oil and gas prices.
Please repeat the question.
Yeah, so the question was just about sort of what's happening with oil and gas prices and how that will factor kind of into the election. So a couple of things. One of the things I forgot to mention is Courage is actually partnering with national and local partners on doing accountability work in Congressional District 13, that's Duarte's district, and District 41, that's Calvert's district, failing them for not voting for bills that would lower gas prices for people here in California. But it is a problem. I know Newsom tried to address it, and he has the commission that's supposed to be looking at oil and gas prices. But I think for us, it will be really key to keep telling voters how the high prices that we're seeing in California are the result of folks in Congress not taking specific votes, or people in the state legislature doing certain things or taking certain money. Yes.
Who governs the gas and oil? What entity governs that?
What entity governs the oil and gas? I mean, so I don't, honestly, I think there's no one who has really good oversight over them. It's really the industry. The industry has too much influence here in the state of California. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of more speakers now. After the speakers, then we're gonna do the question and answer. All right. So next up is.
All right, we're making magic up here. Thanks for bearing with us. Another round of applause for Irene and the incredible work of Courage Californians. So our next presenter comes to us via Zoom land, as I think our president has been referring to it, and I think Henny also. Karla from the Million Voters Project. Karla, welcome to CARA's annual convention.
Hello, everybody. Let's see. Hold on a second. I'm still learning this stuff too. All right. Can you see my screen? There we go. And you can hear me good? Yeah. Y'all, I have been a fan of CARA for so long as a brand new, they kept telling me how young I was. I didn't think I was so young, but I was 22 years old, a brand new union organizer with SEIU 30 years ago, and sat down in the office of CARA here in Los Angeles and just got schooled on what community organizing is. And proud to say for the last 24 years have been on the side of community organizing, but working very closely with unions. Really wonderful to meet all of you and see all of you. I have a little bit of a Halloween theme with my presentation today, because we got some scary stories, but they actually have potentially some happy endings. So I want to talk about how we're gonna work together, all of us, in the many different formations that we are, Courage, the Labor Fed, and the Million Voters Project, to defeat the corporate agenda in 2024. Folks may not have heard of MVP, but you probably heard of our local partners. It's basically the idea, we're an alliance of 8 community-based networks of community organizations. There's actually 126 local groups that are part of the Million Voters Project. And so you may not have heard of MVP, but if you're in LA, you probably heard of CHIRDLA. If you are in Orange County, maybe you've heard of OC Action, Alliance San Diego, Dolores Huerta Foundation, Oakland Rising. Those are just some examples of the 126 groups that are a part of Million Voters Project. And the idea is basically for us to all band together to be able to do so much more, and therefore win and change so much more than would be possible just by doing the stuff we're doing locally. Our main strategies are voter engagement, narrative power, which sounds kind of wonky, but it's basically changing the story of California and how people think about the role of government. And then finally, aligning around a long-term agenda. So we're not just, engaging voters and changing the story 1 year at a time, but really thinking long-term about the structural change we need in our state. To give a little more, you may not have heard of us, but you've definitely heard of our work. We formed basically to make the big fights possible, right? In 2016, we worked on a series of ballot initiatives to Prop 55, which provided money for schools, 56, the tobacco tax, 3 strikes reform. In 2018, partnered hand in glove with the Labor Fed. It was part of why we did it, so we could hang out with Bryan Blum more, but also because it was obviously very important. We helped flip 5 House seats that year, and we defeated Prop 5, which would have expanded Prop 13. But we year-round organizing voters, not just on ballot initiatives, not just on candidate races, but we actually use this infrastructure to do massive outreach to make sure everybody was counted in the census. Probably the thing that we're most known for, which we actually worked most closely with CARA on, was in 2020 when we led the largest field program to help pass Prop 15. We fell short, but we're going back soon, and more on that at the next CARA convention. So that's just a little bit about who we are. Also, we worked on the gubernatorial recall. We actually delivered a huge field program around that. So, and communications. So that's just a little on who we are. And I want to talk about the dueling stories of California in 2024. There are those who would say that California is a leftist failed state, that we're overrun by crime and homelessness and homeless people and immigrants, that businesses are leaving because we're being taxed too much, and that these woke liberal politicians are ruining everything. And that what we need to do, the solution is, we need to protect taxpayers from big bad government. Another story is being told, and especially those of us that have friends in other states are like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky you have Gavin Newsom. And we are lucky, and it's a mixed bag sometimes, right? The kind of main narrative coming from the governor's office is that we're leading the Trump resistance. The problem is actually the red states. We're the anti-Florida and Texas. And I'm proud of what California, I think we all are, is doing around abortion rights, around LGBTQ protection, around gun control. But there's also this idea that big business is our best friend too, and that we need to live within our means. There should be no new taxes, no matter what. And so there's kind of like a little bit of a double-edged sword there. The narrative that we've been putting forward is that this is about California for all of us, that there is enough wealth that nobody should be poor. This is not a zero-sum game. No one should be homeless. The corporations, they have too much power, and that government needs to actually rein them in. And that when we come together, we can make government work for all of us, not just for the few, not just for those with legal status, and so on and so forth. So that's just kind of one to lay out the things, because whether we're talking about congressional races, about ballot initiatives, about whatever fights, this is the 3 different stories of California that are kind of in play. So I want to talk about, I'm going to zero in on one of the ballot initiatives because like I said, it's a scary story, but it's kind of like Scooby-Doo. I want to actually unmask what really is behind the corporate agenda. It's actually corporations and the ultra rich that are trying to stop CARA and all of us from doing the good work that we're doing. In 2024, we're seeing this, I'm going to focus on the ballot initiative side, but they're playing on city council races, on congressional races, on every level. But on the ballot initiatives, they're attacking democracy itself, trying to overturn laws and change the rules of the game. We have 3 initiatives we're looking at: the Taxpayer Protection Act, and I'll talk about who's behind that in a minute. There's an attempt to repeal a law that was passed that required oil drilling to not sit on top of communities and houses and schools, and also trying to repeal protection that Californians have against wage theft. And their narrative, though, is whether the issue deals with it or not, they're talking about being tough on crime because crime is crazy and we got to do something about it. And be afraid, everybody. They also try to say we're fighting for mom and pop, although we're going to unmask that in a second. And they say even when it has nothing to do with it, we need to protect Prop 13. That's kind of some of the key things they're saying. And who I'm talking about is the California Business Roundtable. There's also Chevron, who gives them a lot of their money. The California Association of Realtors, the California Chamber of Commerce. You probably heard a lot of them, but let's talk about the California Business Roundtable, because they're a group that maybe isn't as well known, but they are they put forth this Taxpayer Protection Act, which is really, really dangerous. 3 of the big things that it does is that any new or increased state taxes, once they're approved by 2/3 of the legislature, then they have to go to a vote in an election. The second thing is that it limits the ability of voters to pass required local taxes because it has to be 2/3 no matter what, whereas a lot of local taxes are simple majority. And the thing is, it expands what a tax is to include certain regulatory fees, really broadening the application. That will mean billions of losses. And so when I say fees, I mean, like, for example, the telecom fees that pay for 911, the public good charges for utilities, the fees that campgrounds use to improve the parks. It's a really crazy, and they want to dig you into the weeds of it. But again, what it is it's an initiative to try and make everyone be anti-tax, anti-government, but really what they're about is being anti the people. Yet this is what their website looks like, right? It looks like this young African-American woman really struggling with the cost of living. Some call it inflation. I call it wealth hoarding and price gouging. The Taxpayer Protection Act will give voters, not politicians, the final say. So they're going to try and grab our narrative and literally our people to try and promote this. But this is who CBRT is. It's this guy, Rob Lapsley, and Tom McKernan, the CBRT board member. You might recognize some of these businesses. Blackstone, the largest landlord in the world. John Kilroy from Kilroy Realtor, they just evicted 7